Douluo, what's wrong with me being in a relationship in the spirit hall? This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 76. How can you be so cheap for him? Seeing that Guangling was about to gather his soul power to shoot a blow, Yu Zhigang knew that he could not avoid it with his own strength. He clenched his fists and suddenly shouted towards Jinranyu, if you kill me today, in this life, don't even think about knowing the whereabouts of your parents. What? Jinranyu's eyes paused slightly. This guy actually knew the whereabouts of her parents. Why should I trust you? She stretched out her hand to stop the arrow that Guangling was about to shoot. The two of them touched the backs of their hands. Guangling raised his eyebrows slightly but said nothing. Xiao Yue's parents. This little flathead actually knows Xiao Yue's life experience? Why do you believe it? Jinranyu, you have no choice. Unless you say, you don't care who your parents are at all, Yu Zhigang roared, and when he saw Guangling stop his hand, his momentum became a little stronger than before. He frowned and smiled, looking particularly unbearable. Just after the Xiandao Great Soul Fighting Arena, Yu Zhigang met Tang Hao. From Tang Hao's mouth, he learned information about Jinranyu's life experience. At the same time, under uncertain circumstances, I went to look for Bibi Dong specially. Although Bibi Dong didn't want to see him on the surface, she also told him a bigger secret, and this secret was about Jinranyu. This is his trump card. As long as he has this card, Jinranyu will not kill him easily, and as long as he survives this crisis, he will naturally survive well. After all, Jinranyu said that she killed Tang San, and Haoshan Douluo Tang Hao would never let her go easily. When the time comes when the two tigers fight, he is just a bystander. There is no way that Haoshan Douluo can't deal with such a cruel person. White-eyed wolf, even if there is a peak Douluo beside Jinranyu, tisk, Xiao Yue, why don't you kill him? The old man is very upset to see him. As far as Yu Zhigang was concerned, how could Guangling not see it? He was a little impatient to make a sound. He just felt that there was an eyesore. No matter what they say about Jinranyu's life experience, they can find it out in the enshrinement hall. How could this loser get the chance to make irresponsible remarks? What a no-brainer. Killed. It was the first time for Jinranyu to be threatened by someone so upright. She sneered coldly and said with a snort, how can you be so cheap to him? Huh? What do you want to do? Guangling looked at Jinranyu, put down the divine bow of Guangling in her hand, and saw a curved bow and arrow emitting purple light in Jinranyu's hand. When did this happen? He raised his eyebrows and asked. Given by my god, the extreme shadow bow. Jinranyu stimulated her soul power, and a flame appeared in her palm, igniting the whole body of the bow. She picked up the bow and arrow, using the flame as an arrow, and stared directly at Yu Zhigang, just dodged Guangling's attack, and now Jinranyu came again. Yu Zhigang was startled. He got up hastily, and ran towards the outskirts of the forest. The sound of escaping running echoed in the forest. Guangling tilted his head and looked at Jinranyu. He didn't care how far Yu Zhigang could run. He walked behind Jinranyu and adjusted her bow and arrow position, and the two held hands. The powerful aura on Guangling's body made Jinranyu feel very at ease. His broad palm covered the back of Jinranyu's hand. And a soft voice came from above his head, concentrate, and the hand holding the bow must be steady. In this direction, shooting it will keep him from running very far, call out. The flaming arrow shot out fiercely, and the icy wings spread out behind Guangling. Seeing this, Jinranyu also followed Guangling's movements. She and Guangling flew in the direction of the arrow, but within 30 seconds, there was a sudden explosion in the forest. There was a scream. It is not difficult to know that the arrow hit. In the dark night, the bright flames were particularly conspicuous. Jinranyu and Guangling found Yu Zhigang, who had been shot with an arrow. In just a moment the arrow hit his leg, and the flames penetrated his calf. Although there was no blood, the internal meridians were burned. This power was extremely terrifying. Yu Zhigang rolled on the ground in pain. He never expected Jinranyu's really so cruel that she would attack her former teacher. She is crazy. A crazy white-eyed wolf. Seeing Jinranyu approaching him, Yu Zhigang stepped back subconsciously. His body rubbed against the ground. One calf was already paralyzed and unable to move. He could only run away slowly like a dog crawling. He thought that a few words can make Jinranyu let her go, but she didn't expect that it would only delay her death. Tell me, you know what's going on. Jin Renai stepped on Yu Xiaogang's thigh. Yu Xiaogang cried out in pain. His forehead was covered with sweat. He clenched his teeth, not wanting to make a sound, but his body's reaction was too honest. The burn part was as unbearable as the bites of thousands of ants. Jin Renai's kick directly activated his pain in another part. The upper part was raw and the lower part was bitten. Yu Xiaogang wanted to faint from the pain, but Jin Renai's grasp of pain was very precise. At this level, it was impossible for Yu Xiaogang to faint from the pain. She met the former's resentful gaze, her whole body exuded an air of ice, and said again, it doesn't matter, I will have many ways to make you talk. Besides, if you are really tolerant, we will meet again in the future. This time, I will treat it as a lesson to you. Jin Renai was bright and flamboyant, but she didn't look like a 10-year-old at all. Yu Xiaogang looked at her in fear, and just wanted to quickly distance himself from her. Jin Renai, you can't kill me. He was as stubborn as ever. It is said that one day is a teacher and life is a father. I am your teacher. You can't kill me. Division. Jin Renai opened her eyes slightly and sneered, are you worthy of being my master? Yu Xiaogang, green vine. The next moment, Jin Renai summoned a soft whip, a weapon fused with soul skills, and she mercilessly lashed at Yu Xiaogang's body with a whip, tearing his skin to pieces. What? Yu Xiaogang cried out in pain, which echoed throughout the night sky. There is toxin attached to the soft whip, and every blow is stimulating Yu Xiaogang's flesh. Not only his skin was ripped apart, but even some flesh and blood were corroded, exposing white bones, which is extremely disgusting. A piece of trash is also worthy to teach people. What a goat's diarrhea. Diarrhea. Another kick, a look of disgust on Jin Renai's face. She whipped Yu Xiaogang and kicked him at the same time. Her movements were smooth, and she kicked Shang from the central area to the outer area. Guangling followed behind her. But she didn't expect Jin Renai to have such a cruel side. It can be seen that his family Xiaoyu had a bad life before. This Yu Xiaogang must have bullied his family Xiaoyu before. Otherwise, Xiaoyu is so talkative and gentle, how could she do such a thing? Humph, rabbits will bite when cornered. Yu Xiaogang deserves to die. Guangling's eyes were slightly cold. Xiaoyu, the old man gave him a gift, remembered to avoid at him. After hearing this, Jin Renai turned sideways to avoid the cold arrow shot by Guangling. The two of them looked at each other, and in their crossed eyes, Jin Renai smiled softly. Bang! The next moment, Yu Xiaogang behind her was hid 1,000 meters away by an extremely powerful cold air. Teacher, end of this chapter. Chapter 77. The appearance of Nine Compassion Sword. Tang San's eager voice resounded throughout the night sky. He and Tang Hao stood on the branches, undoubtedly had a panoramic view of Yu Xiaogang's embarrassment of rolling and crawling. Teacher, before Tang Hao could speak, Tang San immediately jumped off the branch and went to check Yu Xiaogang's injuries. Coming from the central region to the outskirts, Yu Xiaogang no longer has a whole piece of good flesh on his body, his clothes are soaked in blood, and his head is bleeding. Such tragic scenes are shocking. Tang San's eyes moistened slightly, and he quickly helped Yu Xiaogang up. Teacher, what happened? How did this happen? How did you suffer such serious injuries? An eager voice came from the top of his head. Yu Xiaogang was already in a state of fuzzy consciousness at this moment. He heard Tang San's familiar voice, and thought he had already arrived in the underworld. He grabbed Tang San's hand, and said unwillingly, Little San old, teacher, I'm sorry you didn't, I couldn't protect you well. Guju. As soon as the words fell, the person lost consciousness. No. Teacher, Tang San shouted anxiously. Yu Xiaogang's injuries are too serious now. Not only the external injuries are serious, but the internal injuries also hurt the heart. With Tang San's current strength, there is no way to treat Yu Xiaogang. He suddenly raised his head and looked up. Tang Hao prayed, Father, save the teacher, save the teacher. Tang Hao's eyes drooped slightly. He jumped off the branch, reached out his hand to feel Yu Xiaogang's pulse. He's still alive. He won't die in a short time, he said solemnly. Dad, Tang San was about to help Yu Xiaogang up and say to leave quickly. At this moment, in the direction Yu Xiaogang came from, two figures appeared in front of Tang San and Tang Hao. Through the woods the icy breath swept across the whole body. Tang Hao protected Tang San behind him. This momentum is titled Douluo. Xiaoyu, when he saw clearly that the person who came was Jin Renai, Tang San was startled. He looked at the soft whip Jin Renai held in his hand. His eyes trembled slightly. The green whip has been stained red with blood, and the barbs on the whip still have unoxidized flesh and blood. Obviously, The skin trauma on Yu Xiaogang's body comes from that soft whip. Did Xiao Wu hurt the teacher? Tang San had a look of disbelief. How can it be? Xiao Wu is so kind. How could she do such a thing? There is also a surprise. Guangling made a sound, and when he saw Tang Hao, he was also a little surprised. This guy, after being a coward for so many years, is he finally willing to show up? I wonder who it is. It turned out to be the Haoshan Douluo who was hidden in the world back then. Why, is Haoshan Douluo planning to prevent Wuhan Hall from doing business? Guangling raised his eyes, a look of disdain flashed in his eyes. He raised his mouth slightly and smiled, but he wasn't afraid of Tang Hao at this moment. If Tang Hao wants to stop his little Yue from having fun, he doesn't mind fighting with this guy. Anyway, he hasn't exercised for a long time, so it's not bad to keep your eyes open. Business. Oh. Do you Wuhandian like to drive people to death and so much? The scene of Yin's sacrifice is still in front of his eyes, and now Guangling and Jin Renai appear to kill Yu Xiaogang. This is simply too much deception. Tang Hao's body exuded a chilling power. And it was only at this time that Tang San realized that his father was actually a titled Douluo powerhouse. The 9 soul rings moved up and down, and the red 9th ring suddenly appeared. Tang San was shocked. This is a 10-year spirit ring? For some reason, looking at the 10-year soul ring in front of him, he felt a sense of kindness. Guangling then released his soul power. His aura was not inferior to Tang Hao. Both of them were peak Douluo of the assault system at level 96. Both had top-notch soul ring configurations, and both had a 10-year soul ring. The powerful breath of soul power filled the air. Tang San and Jin Renai both felt the oppression from peak Douluo. Jin Renai activated her martial spirit. The 9-petal fairy lotus floated into the air, and pure power shone on herself. But after a while, the strong pressure dissipated. Jin Renai jumped onto the branch. A red light flashed in her right eye. Bingyi, the ice bow appeared in the palm of his hand in an instant. Guangling looked sideways, and raised his lips slightly. It seemed that his little Yue also wanted to beat this Haoshan Douluo. Tang Hao became famous in a battle many years ago, and his strength is by no means inferior to him. Guangling knew this in his heart, but if he really tried his best, he might not be able to severely injure Tang Hao. In front of Jin Renai, he could not be a loser. 5th soul skill, coming without a trace. The heart was locked. Tang Hao frowned, swung the Haoshan hammer and smashed it towards Guangling. Guangling dodged and the two of them clashed. Although they were soul masters of the same level, it was obvious that Tang Hao's attack power was much higher than Guangling's. The killing aura in his body made Jin Renai feel very uncomfortable. Who is familiar with the plot of the original book, knows that this is the aura exuded by the realm of the god of death, and in fact, based on Guangling's current strength, between him and Tang Hao is definitely better, not to mention that Tang Hao still has a few soul bones in his body. In this regard, he is far better than Guangling. The two wrestled together, and 2 rays of light appeared in the air one after another. Jin Renai drew his bow, aimed at the red chilling aura, locked the enemy. Sensing the sound of the arrow, Guangling immediately moved away, and he stepped back for a long distance. Suddenly, he felt that this guy was indeed a little tricky. He frowned slightly. It seemed that they couldn't kill Yu Xiaogang today. The mighty Wuhan Hall actually engages in sneak attacks. You really are a villain. Tang Hao deflected Jin Renai's arrow with one punch, and rushed towards Guangling and Jin Renai, not intending to let them go easily. The 7th soul skill, Haoshan Avatar, a huge human figure appeared behind Tang Hao. He swung the clear sky hammer, and slammed it at Jin Renai and Guangling. A powerful aura hit, and Guangling thought inwardly. The 7th soul skill, Martial Soul Avatar, the divine bow of lightning appeared behind him. He raised the bow and arrow in his hand, and charged straight at Tang Hao. The soul power of the two collided. Tang Hao was originally a powerful soul master. The clear sky hammer was also the first martial soul in the mainland, and Guangling was at the same level as him. It was obvious, but after a while, the latter lost the upper hand. Grandpa Guangling, Jin Renai frowned and gritted her teeth. She put away Bingai and opened the wings of the ice phoenix. Afterwards, a thick soul power erupted from her body. In an instant, the sky and the earth changed color, and a red beam of light fell on Jin Renai. Slowly, the 9-petal sword appeared on top of her head. Jin Renai reached out to grab it, and with a light wave, a few red rays of light attacked Tang Hao. Tang Hao frowned slightly, seeing 9-petal the moment he touched the sword. His eyes moved imperceptibly. The 9-petal sword is the sword of the soul beast, and it is extremely lethal. Tang Hao had seen the power of this thing in the early years. He withdrew the soul power that was oppressing Guangling, and turned his attack to Jinrinai on the other side. End of this chapter. Chapter 78. Use Gang, be a man again in your next life. Moon, Guangling unfolded his ice wings, and before he could recover, he immediately dodged in front of Jinrinai. The sixth soul skill, Ultimate Ling Guang, a ray of ice blue cold light burst out. This was a skill with extremely strong penetrating power. It rushed towards Tang Hao and collided with a clear sky hammer, producing huge soul power fluctuations and wind power. Boom! Tang San also received a certain shock on the ground. He hugged Yu Xiaogang tightly, never understanding why Jinrinai had to be his enemy, his father's enemy, and even hurt his teacher like this. The severity of Yu Xiaogang's injuries was not very bearable. His skin was torn apart, his flesh was bloody. If it wasn't because he was a soul master, he probably wouldn't have survived this time. Jinrinai, you really are cruel. Tang San's eyes were slightly red, and he had already made up his mind. If Jinrinai must be his enemy, then he would treat her as an enemy from now on, even if she was his younger sister, even if he was the one who was sorry at the beginning. Amidst the loud noise, Jinrinai was affected, and Guangling flew behind her to catch her. The two looked at each other solemnly. Yuer, do you want to kill that guy? Guangling refers to Yu Xiaogang. Although he couldn't kill Tang Hao now, it was more than enough to kill Yu Xiaogang. That guy Tang Hao had been hiding for so many years, and now he suddenly came out, most likely to take revenge on Wuhan Palace. Guangling knew full well that Haoshan had if it weren't for Jin Daoliu letting Tang Hao go for Tang Chen's sake. This old guy who didn't care about martial arts would have gone to the west to learn Buddhist scriptures. Where would he be today? He must go back to report what happened today to Jin Daoliu. Not to mention chasing down Tang Hao, he must at least pay attention to this guy. Otherwise, there will be endless troubles. Jinrinai held the nine-pity sword, and her whole body was covered by the red color of the sword. A faint red light surrounded her, which seemed to be a protective barrier. Exactly the same. Leave it to me, Grandpa Guangling, she said. I'll leave Tang Hammer to you. Then, Jinrinai flew towards Tang San and Yu Xiaogang on the ground with her sword. Guangling didn't delay. At the moment Jinrinai moved, he also started to move, spreading his icy wings and flying towards Tang Hao. Several ice arrows fell from the sky. It's like rain. It's hard to avoid. Tang Hao has the body protection of the martial spirit real body. These small tricks are nothing to him at all, but it seems that the goal of this Guangling is not him. Not good. Tang Hao seemed to have thought of something. He quickly turned around and said, Mistress, but he saw Jinrinai flying towards Tang San. Don't be distracted, Tang Hao. Give this old man a kick. Snapped. During the fight, it was most important not to be distracted. Tang Hao just turned around and glanced at Tang San, and he received a fierce kick from Guangling on his chest. Guangling's kick was only heavy, not light. With that kick, Tang Hao was kicked back several meters. At the same time, the place where he was kicked began to slowly frost, and a breath of ice invaded his body. Tang Hao, his brows were furrowed, but he didn't care much. He used Haoshan Jidra to attack Guangling, hoping for a quick victory. Tang San hasn't grown up yet, and the father and son can't compete with Wuhan Palace at all. Showing their faces now has exposed their whereabouts. If they keep fighting here, they will attract the group of titled Douluo from the Enshrinement Palace later. Then something bad will happen. Knowing full well what his purpose was, Tang Hao would not choose to continue to entangle with Guangling here. He hammered down one after another, and the hammers were all aimed at Guangling's life. It was a pity that the two of them were both at the top of the fight. Luo, even if Guangling can't defeat Tang Hao, he won't be easily defeated by him. During the fight, Guangling saw Tang Hao's desire to win the battle quickly. He glanced sideways at Jinrinai's situation. At that moment, Tang San and Jinrinai started fighting. No doubt, Jinrinai, who possessed the nine compassionate sword, had always had the upper hand. After a few moves, Tang San was obviously invincible. Guangling snorted softly seeing this. It seemed that Xiao, the things given by the cheap master Yue are quite good. Both of them were distracted. Tang Hao was more worried about Tang San's situation at this time. Jinrinai had the Jiulian sword in his hand. Although Tang San had twin martial souls, the clear sky hammer had not yet attached a soul ring. Besides, he also doesn't know the ultimate skill of Hao Xianzong. If he really fights with Jinrinai, who possesses the nine compassion sword, he might be like a cart with the arms of a mantis, and he won't get any good results. The two rays of light in the air came back and forth, sending out fierce auras. Tang San and Jin Renai on the ground did not back down, and now Yu Zhigang had fallen into deep coma. Tang San knew this was not the time to delay, but Jin Renai's strength is several times stronger than when he was in the Xiandao Great Soul Arena. With his current strength, there is no way to defeat her. How to do? What should he do? Subconsciously looking at Yu Zhigang lying on the ground, Tang San would remember such a tragic scene in his heart for the rest of his life. Perhaps it was this stimulation that caused the blood in Tang San's body to seem to be stimulated, and he faced Jin Renai. The 9-lian sword and the tough blue-silver grass fought against it. The two of them instilled soul power into the weapons in front of them. Tang San's eyes widened. At this moment, there was no longer any hatred for Jin Renai in his eyes. The love between brother and sister, the two look at each other, but they are just enemies. Xiao Wu, why do you have to be our enemy? Even though he had already identified Jin Renai was his enemy in his heart, Tang San still couldn't help but ask out his inner thoughts. He still couldn't understand why such a kind-hearted girl turned into what she is today, just because she was in Tsingtao University. Didn't he choose to save her when they were in the forest? The soul powers of the two rushed at each other. Jin Renai looked much more relaxed than Tang San. She sneered, and didn't want to answer the stupid question Tang San asked. The breath of Jiulian's sword spread, and Jin Renai's originally gentle soul power suddenly became overbearing in an instant. The powerful soul power hit Tang San's meridians. Tang San frowned slightly, thinking that if this continues, he will definitely not be able to hold on. Before Tang San could think of another move, Jin Renai directly injected her soul power domineeringly. Soon, Tang San's soul power was exhausted, and his whole body was hit by the aura released by the Jiulian sword and hide a thick tree trunk. Puff! Tang San spit out a mouthful of blood, and before he could speak, he fell directly to the ground. Injured by the sword energy of the Nine-Compassion sword, theoretically it would cause people to lose consciousness, but Tang San didn't. His consciousness was still there, but his body couldn't move. This was more terrifying than losing consciousness to him. The feeling of powerlessness filled his heart, and Tang San fell to the ground. He wanted to stop Jin Renai from approaching Yu Zhigang, but his body was already paralyzed and it was difficult for him to even move. Seeing Jin Renai walking in front of Yu Zhigang, Tang San gritted his teeth and wanted to leave, but found that Jin Renai didn't seem to want to kill Yu Zhigang. But, to be honest, even my own sister can do it. Yu Zhigang, why don't you be a man in your next life? Jin Renai took out a kitchen knife from the soul tool, and under Tang San's frightened eyes, she raised the kitchen knife to a high place, and let go of her hand. Do not! Tang San screamed heart-piercingly. Guangling and Tang Hao were both attracted by the cry. I saw the kitchen knife in Jin Renai's hand landed firmly on Yu Zhiagang's crotch. His lower body was soaked in blood, and he woke up from a coma. All the pain spread throughout his body. Yu Zhiagang screaming in pain, he subconsciously covered his crotch. Cold sweat broke out on his forehead, his whole face suddenly turned pale, and the pain in every part of his body was not as good as the pain in this place. Yu Zhiagang rolled around, without the thought to care about what happened. Who was so cruel to him? When Guangling and Tang Hao saw this scene, they were both shocked. I'm serious, don't come here to scold me. Chapter 1 Lightning protection doesn't have eyes to see, right? Those who don't want eyes can donate them. Okay, I love how to write Tang San. How to write Tang San. Take your brain with a missing brainstem and get the hell out of here. Okay, end of this chapter. Chapter 79 Tang Hao's selfishness. Jin Renai, are you crazy? Tang Hao suddenly spoke, his pupils widened. He never expected that Jin Renai could do such a thing. Take care of yourself first. Guangling kicked Tang Hao's chest again. Tang Hao let out a muffled cry, and fell to the ground. A big hole was smashed in the ground. Father, Tang Hao suffered such serious internal injuries more than 10 years ago. Guangling knew very well. However, when he and Tang Hao fought at the beginning, Tang Hao's condition did not look like he was too seriously injured. Could it be that has his injury been repaired by anyone in these 12 years? Guangling frowned slightly. Snowflakes fell in the air. Tang Hao stood up on the ground. He wiped the wound on his face. A killing intent flashed in his eyes. He swung the clear sky hammer and charged directly at Jin Ren in front of Yu Zhiagang. Moon. Guangling didn't expect Tang Hao to shift his target to Jin Renai. He hurriedly flew towards Jin Renai. Jin Renai looked back, and Tang Hao looked at each other. In Tang Hao's eyes, Jin Renai noticed that a familiar breath, that is. I saw that Tang Hao's eyes had the same light as her right eye, and the light red light scattered in the air with Tang Hao's movements. Jin Renai paused slightly, and Guangling said anxiously, Yue, run away, boom. A huge red light barrier spread out between Tang Hao and Jinrinyu, and Guangling was suddenly blocked outside. At this time, Lu Yaxin and his soul guide spoke out, "Is it the breath of the Lord?" "What?" Guangling's eyes opened slightly, and he stood in front of the barrier, a little surprised. The enchantment in front of him is stronger than the one created between Lu Yaxin and Jinrinyu just now. Such energy fluctuations can only be emitted by 10-year-old soul beasts. Could it be that this is Jinrinyu? Is it an enchantment opened by the soul power in the body? However, before Guangling could confirm this idea, Lu Yaxin's heavy voice rang in his ears, "It's that man, and that man has the aura of the Lord?" Lu Yaxin was very surprised to be able to perceive the soul power of the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus on Tang Hao. She couldn't believe that this breath would appear on a soul master who had no contact with him at all. How did this happen? Lu Yaxin couldn't understand, and Guangling was also surprised when she heard that Tang Hao also had the aura of the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus on him. Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus is Jinrinyu's biological mother. How could Tang Hao have that aura? Hard to do. In the barrier, the Jiulian sword in Jinrinyu's hand flew into the air. It emitted a powerful light and shone on Jinrinyu. Tang Hao's Aoshin hammer then hit the light, producing an extremely powerful light. Energy fluctuations. The strong wind blew Tang Hao's messy black hair. Jinrinyu looked at him in surprise. There was only a barrier between the two. Up close, Jinrinyu could clearly see the redness in Tang Hao's eyes. Her eyes were slightly moved, a little in disbelief. Why is there this aura in your eyes? Tang Hao looked at her, did not choose to answer. Judging from Jinrinyu's reaction, she must have known about Jiu's inner. Tang Hao didn't know what he was thinking in his heart. He strengthened the output of power, but after a while, cracks began to appear in the protective barrier in front of Jinrinyu, and the light of the Nine-Petal sword gradually became weaker. Seeing this, Tang Hao seemed to understand something. His eyes narrowed slightly, and his voice was low and hoarse. The strength of Jiulianjin is linked to the strength of its master, Jinrinyu. I am really surprised that you can make Jiulianjin recognize its master, but it's just a soul master. Even with a 9 compassion sword, it's impossible to compete with a strong thorn under the hammer of Haoshin. The protection produced by the 9 compassion sword was shattered in an instant. Several red starlights fell. Jinrinyu was impacted. The defense was lost, and it slammed into the barrier. Boom! The barrier shattered, and pain came from behind Jinrinyu. She frowned, and spit out blood in her throat. The body began to become a little weak. Jinrinyu knelt on the ground with one knee. She supported the ground with her hands, although there was no serious injury on the outside of her body, but inside her body, she was impacted by Tang Hao's powerful soul power. He didn't pass out right now, and it exceeded Tang Hao's expectations. Tang Hao was a little surprised. He raised the hammer and walked towards Jinrinyu, sinking every step, no doubt wanting to crush the 10-year-old girl in front of him to the ground. Tang Hao got closer and closer. Jinrinyu's waist became more and more bent. Her nails gripped the ground tightly. Even if they were broken, she would not let go. The blood and pain stimulated her nerves. She clenched her teeth, and spread the ice phoenix wings behind her. Why don't you let yourself kneel down to the person in front of you, even if it means death? Jinrinyu's stubbornness reminded Tang Hao of an old friend. His footsteps paused slightly, and a complex look appeared in his eyes. Many years ago, Jiu's inner, who is also a soul beast, sent Jinrinyu to Yin's body, and then disappeared in the world without a trace. Tang Hao sensed a Yin's call, and then went to the cave to visit a Yin who knows. I saw Jinrinyu who was still a baby as early as many years ago. Tang Hao and a Yin had met Jinrinyu. They had just met at that time. The two met Jiu's inner in an experience. Since a Yin and Jiu's inner are both soul beasts, so the two of them quickly became friends, and after the relationship became good, Jiu's inner revealed that she had a daughter. When they met together, a Yin noticed something unusual. Jiu's inner hid Jinrinyu in the flower bud, so that Jinrinyu has maintained the form of a baby for at least 90 years at first. A Yin also asked Jiu's inner why she did this, but Jiu's inner didn't answer, so they didn't ask any more questions. After they spent a very pleasant time together, they parted ways. After that, Tang Hao I don't know where Jiu's inner went until Tang San was born and a Yin offered sacrifice. When Tang Hao was fighting a bloody battle with the soul masters sent by Wuhan Palace, he was shocked to realize that one of the soul masters actually had Jiu's inner in his body petals. Coincidentally, Jiu Ziner once said that she married a soul master to give birth to Jinrinyu, and that soul master had her token on her body. Thinking of this, Tang Hao had to suspect that Jiu Ziner had revealed his innate yin's whereabouts. After all, in that situation, the only thing he could think of was Jiu Ziner, and without a yin's request, he would never have been able to bring Jinrinyu back to the Holy Soul Village, and he would never have been able to adopt her. Why should he raise the enemy's daughter? But Tang Hao seemed to think of something again at the beginning. He was seriously injured and never healed. Speaking of which, it was because of the petals left by Jiu Ziner that he recovered % of his strength, otherwise he would not have had any good fruit just now under Guangling's hands. Tang Hao was distracted. The coercion on Jinrinyu's body began to fade. She bit her lip, and took advantage of this gap to forcibly activate the strong soul power in her body. In an instant, a beam of light suddenly descended from above the barrier, and when the beam of light landed on the ground, there was a chilling aura of ice. Tang Hao's eyes trembled slightly. Feeling bad, he quickly activated the body protection skill. The Nine-Petal sword appeared, and the wings of the ice phoenix behind Jinrinyu also appeared. The little phoenix broke the barrier, and the ice blue image of the phoenix appeared behind Jinrinyu. The red and blue forces gathered, and the barrier instantly shattered. Tang Hao was amazed. That is, the ice crystal phoenix. End of this chapter. Chapter 80. The fleeing Tang family father and son. How could the ice crystal phoenix living in the extreme north be on her body? Tang Hao was shocked and distracted. Suddenly, Jinrinyu arrived behind him without knowing when. Stab it! The Nine-Petal sword pierced through Tang Hao's protection, and when he reacted, he couldn't dodge it. The red light was dazzling, and the sword body of the Nine-Petal sword pierced Tang Hao's chest directly. Holding the Nine-Petal sword, the powerful soul power impacted his body. Even though he had absorbed the piece of the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus, he still couldn't bear it when facing the companion weapon of the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus. The younger generation is terrifying. Tang Hao gritted his teeth, moved, and flew directly away from the Jiulian sword. His flesh and blood were torn apart, and a special flame ignited at the wound. The flame was red and blue. Tang Hao was shocked and quickly released his soul power. To prevent this flame from burning into his heart and lungs, the barrier was broken, and Jinrinyu and Tang Hao appeared in front of Guangling and the others. Xiao Wu. Guangling immediately spread out her ice wings and flew towards Jinrinyu in the sky. She actually used the Lord's power, Lu Yaxin said in surprise. In the air, Jinrinyu holds the Jiulian sword, and her palms are burning with flames. The Jiulian sword is divided into two poles. One half is red, covered with red and blue flames, and the other half is blue, covered with ice blue frost and snow. Her face somewhat tired, breathing heavily, there was blood hanging from the corners of his mouth and chin, and his clothes were stained with the blood left by when Tang Hao forcibly pulled out the Jiulian sword just now. Seeing this, Guangling hurriedly stepped forward and hugged him. Her shoulders made people lean into her arms. Xiao Wu. Guangling frowned and used his soul power to explore Jinrinyu's body. As expected, Jinrinyu suffered internal injuries, but they were not serious. But Guangling had murderous intentions for the people underneath. Tang Hao retreated and landed in front of Tang San. He picked up Tang San and just wanted to leave here quickly. When Guangling saw this, how could he let them go like this? Flying to the ground with Jinrinyu in his arms, Guangling opened the soul guide and released Lu Yaxin from it. Alu, please take care of Xiao Wu. I will definitely make them pay the price today. Guangling stared coldly at the direction Tang Hao was escaping from, and Lu Yaxin appeared in her real body, carrying Jinrinyu on her body, and nodded. Well, I know, since the soul power union between Jinrinyu and Lu Yaxin, not only Jinrinyu can hear what Lu Yaxin says, but also Guangling can hear it. Maybe it's because of Little Phoenix, they can hear each other's words, but if there is an enchantment between Jinrinyu and someone, Little Phoenix will be isolated in another space. Not only can't contact Jinrinyu, you couldn't get in touch with Guangling, and if it wasn't because it sensed that Jinrinyu's life was in danger, it wouldn't be desperate to break through the obstacle. After all, its life was nourished by Jinrinyu's soul power. After Jinrinyu was placed, Guangling caught up with Tang Hao and the others at an extremely fast speed. Why are you running? Weren't you very tough just now? Snapped. Tang Hao was kicked by Guangling on the back, and the wound that had not yet recovered was torn a little more. Hiss. Tang Hao took a breath of cold air and couldn't help shaking the hand holding the two waists. You are so shameless when you bully the small ones. Guangling shot an arrow. Tang Hao dodged sideways. The Yuziagang he was carrying in his hand was rotated several 180 degrees. His crotch was empty. The cool breeze blew, and he suddenly woke up after fainting from pain. Just after waking up, his mouth was parched, and before he had time to figure out the situation, Guangling wanted to reach out and grab Tang Hao, but Tang Hao quickly dodged it, so that his hand slapped Yu Zhigang on the face. Shang Shang beat Yu Zhigang unconscious again. Tisk. Guangling was a little impatient. He pretended to hit Tang Hao, but actually kicked Tang San in the face with a hook. Tang San was originally in a coma, but this kick woke him up. The big bully bullies the little Yuer, right? That old man also bullied the small with the big, and kicked your son to death. The hunter game started. Guangling kicked Tang San and Yu Zhigang back and forth. Tang Hao had no time to care about these two people. Perhaps his son should pay attention to Yu Zhigang. Since Yu Zhigang had helped Tang San, he had no intention of taking him with him. Even if this guy could survive, he would be a cripple with no future. Thinking of this, Tang Hao felt that he had been beaten by Guangling, and Guangling was playing with a lot of fun at this moment, and he didn't intend to end their lives just like that. He must vent his anger for Xiao Wu and never let these three old guys have an easy time. Counting kicks and punches, he and Tang Hao entangled for a long time. The two ran and chased. Tang Hao was in a panic. Finally, Guangling released the spirit of the spirit. He opened his left eye, and locked Tang Hao's body Renyu's burning wound. He drew his bow and raised his lips. The 8th soul skill, stop. A huge formation appeared in front of Guangling. Snowflakes fell on the entire sunset forest, and the ground quickly froze. Several ice arrows rushed out from the ground. After Guangling's blow, Tang Hao didn't want to care about Yu Zhigang. But thinking that Tang San cared so much about Yu Zhigang, Tang Hao didn't abandon him, and just after this brief consideration, the three of them left not so smoothly. Guangling's ice arrows have tracking functions. Even if Tang Hao tried his best to avoid the medium-sized arrows protruding from the ground, but he couldn't avoid the big ones, and with two useless things in his hand, he could only bear the blow. Boom! A huge sound resounded on the outskirts of the sunset forest. Guangling floated in the air, and stretched out his hand to look at the direction Tang Hao and the others were leaving. With this blow, Tang Hao would be destroyed even if he was not dead. Its fate. After finishing what he wanted to do, Guangling set off to fly back to find Jin Renyu. Jin Renyu suffered an internal injury. Although the injury was not serious, it had to be treated as soon as possible. Otherwise, if there were any sequelae, he would be sad for the rest of his life. Moon. Guangling fell from the sky and landed in front of Liu Yaxin and Jin Renyu. He walked quickly towards Jin Renyu, only to see that Jin Renyu had fallen asleep at this time. Liu Yaxin shook the vines and said anxiously, Master 5 enshrinements, I cannot treat the young master's injury. So please take her to Healing Soul Master as soon as possible. Although Liu Yaxin belongs to the branch of the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus, her healing ability is far inferior to that of the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus. Such an internal injury that hurts the heart veins cannot be healed with her current strength, so, at this moment she was so anxious that she was a little at a loss. The old man knows, Guangling replied in a deep voice. He knew Jin Renyu's injury well. If it weren't for this, he wouldn't have rushed back. Opening the soul guide, Guangling signaled Liu Yaxin to go in. Then, he picked up Jin Renyu and flew to Wuhan City, speeding all the way. He even took out a robe to cover Jin Renyu because he was afraid that Jin Renyu would catch cold. Within half an hour, the two returned to Wuhan Hall. Big brother. Big brother, end of this chapter. Chapter 81. Chasing Tang Hao. It was already midnight when we returned to Wuhan Hall, and Jin Daoliu in the Angel Hall had just rested when he heard Guangling's hasty call ringing in his ears. After running away from home for more than a month, he started yelling nonsense when he came back. Jin Daoliu got up impatiently, frowned, but put on his robe and walked out. Lao Wu, big brother. Guangling walked quickly towards Jin Daoliu with Jin Renyu in his arms, looking extremely anxious. Qian Daoliu had already thought about how to teach this fifth child who had run away from home, but the moment he saw Jin Renyu, those words were thrown out of his mind. What's going on? Jin Daoliu said in surprise. He woke up from a doze. Who hurt Xiao? Tang Hao. Guangling gritted her teeth and replied, Tang Hao. Jin Daoliu frowned and reached out to feel Jin Renyu's pulse. Here comes someone. Great offering. There were people waiting in the Angel Hall 24 hours a day. They jumped off the roof, appeared half kneeling in front of Jin Daoliu, and called out respectfully. Jin Daoliu ordered, go and summon the doctor. Yes, several people got the order and immediately flew away from the Temple of Angels. Guangling carried Jin Renyu into the Angel Hall, and Jin Daoliu followed behind. Thinking about Tang Hao that Guangling was talking about 12 years ago, Tang Hao disappeared after being seriously injured. There was no whereabouts of him in the entire Soul Master world. Now he shows up and hurts a junior? Are you shameless? Jinru is just a Soul Lord now, and Tang Hao is a titled Douluo. Even though he was seriously injured back then, his strength is still higher than that of a Soul Emperor. Did he hurt Jinru because he wanted to take revenge on Wuhan Palace? That would be a little too tasteless, Jin Daoliu thought. The doctor hurried over, and the entire Angel Hall suddenly became extremely lively. The Golden Crocodile Palace and the Qinglun Palace are both relatively close to the Angel Palace. When there was such a movement in the Angel Palace, the two of them naturally noticed it. Coincidentally, both Qinglun and Golden Crocodile didn't like to sleep at night, and when they heard the movement, they also went to the Angel Hall tacitly. Jin Crocodile and Qinglun met in front of the Angel Palace. They looked at each other but did not speak. They walked into the Angel Hall together and saw Jin Daoliu standing in the courtyard meditating. Big brother, the two said in unison. What happened? Qinglun subconsciously looked towards the back room. In the entire Angel Palace, only Jinru's room was close to the courtyard. It was not difficult to know that Jinru had returned. But at a glance, Qinglun did not see Jinru, but he did. When it comes to Guangling, who is labeled as running away from home, fifth, he spoke slowly, suddenly thinking of the incident where Guangling accidentally injured Jinru. Could it be this time? Xiao Wu suffered some internal injuries. It's not serious, but the force that hurt her was extremely overbearing. Lao Wu said it was Tang Hao. Jin Daoliu said, his eyes tightened in his heart. He cursed Tang Hao for being shameless by bullying the younger ones. Tang Hao, Qinglun and Jin Crocodile looked at each other, and their expressions suddenly became serious. Is it for revenge on the Spirit Hall? Golden Crocodile guessed it wasn't long before Jinru's identity as the second lady of the Wuhan Hall was made public. Tang Hao's bastard had disappeared for so many years. How could he find out about Jinru's identity so quickly, unless it is said that he has been observing the movements of the Wuhan Hall? But then again, Jinru is a person who worships the hall. Has Tang Hao become so bold that he dares to attack the people who worship them in the hall? Or is this the idea of their Haoshan sect? Thinking of this, the Golden Crocodile uttered annoyedly that he should have killed Tang Hao in the first place, so that the wildfire would not burn out and the spring breeze would blow again. Tang Hao Qinglun's eyes flickered slightly. Xiao was with a fifth child all the time. How could they make Tang Hao? Moreover, Tang Hao was so seriously injured in that battle. With Lao Wu's strength, it was impossible for him to hurt Xiao Wu. What happened in this? It's not clear yet. Let's talk about it when Xiao Wu wakes up. Thousands of runners. He was also very surprised why Jinru was injured by Tang Hao. Leaving aside how the two of them met, if Tang Hao really came to Wuhan Hall, there was really no need to touch a child who is only level 35. Of course, this does not rule out that he is shameless and bullies the small with the big. Hasn't Lao Wu always been with Xiao Wu? Qinglun spoke up. He and Xiongxi met Guangling when they left the Xiandao Great Soul Fighting Arena. If Guangling hadn't kept telling them that he was just going to see Jinru and would go back later, they wouldn't have given him any advice. He shows the way. Who knows? This guy escaped, of course. Qinglun and Xiongxi also chose to remain silent. After all, Daoliu didn't ask about Guangling's whereabouts, so they naturally wouldn't betray him. But things are different now. What should be sold, still has to be sold. Lao Wu has been with Xiao Wu all this time. Jin Daoliu looked at Qinglun and frowned slightly. Qinglun nodded. Yeah, at this time, Jin Daoliu couldn't help but wonder, why is it that every time Xiao Wu gets injured, she is always with Lao Wu? Are they destined to be incompatible with each other? Without thinking too much, Jin Daoliu took the lead in calling Guangling out. Guangling knew that he couldn't escape a reprimand, and after confirming that the doctor could completely cure Jinru, he obediently followed Jin Daoliu out. Second brother, third brother, you are here too. As soon as he saw Qinglun, Guangling probably knew that his third brother had sold him out. After all, if something like this happened, it would be impossible for Qinglun not to sell him. Lao Wu, tell me what happened. Right now, Jin Daoliu doesn't want to argue with Guangling about what's there or not. The most urgent thing to do is to figure out why Jinru clashed with Tang Hao. Everything else is secondary. Mentioning what happened, Guangling was silent for a while. They didn't know Jinru's life experience, and Guangling didn't tell them after the investigation. Now, he had to tell the truth. Guangling told everything he knew. After Jin Daoliu and the others listened, They all fell into deep thought. It turned out that Jinrinai was raised by Tang Hao, but no matter what Jinrinai was like before, it is a fact that Tang Hao bullied the younger ones. Now Jinrinai is the second young lady of their enshrinement hall. Tang Hao's move is undoubtedly a challenge to their enshrinement hall. In any case, this matter is it's impossible to let it go. Jin Daoliu's face darkened, and he immediately ordered, send someone out to look for Tang Hao. If they find him, shoot him to death. Yes, sir. The three of them got the order, and then sent out the staff directly under the Hall of Worship to search for Tang Hao's whereabouts. Tang Hao was injured by Guangling, and he brought 2 more oil bottles. He believed that he couldn't go too far. At this time, he only needs to look in the direction of the setting sun forest, and he probably will find that bastard soon. Guangling stood by Jinrinai's side, and Jin Daoliu and the others didn't stop him. At present, Jin Daoliu and the others were more concerned about Jinrinai's life experience. No wonder this child was able to awaken the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus. It turned out that her mother was the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus soul beast. The reason why Jin Daoliu and the others didn't know about the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus spirit was because this spirit was unique in the entire continent, and they never asked about world affairs, but they didn't know anything about the outside world, let alone other people's families. Love and hate. The 7 grown men usually don't like gossip. Except for Guangling, who likes to play outside, the others almost never leave the house. No wonder they are short-sighted in this matter. Guangling stayed by Jinrinai's side all night. Early in the morning, Zheng Moqianjin learned the news and rushed over. Not only the 2 of them, but also Jin Ringsu's side because of the direct personnel dispatched from the enshrinement hall this time. I soon found out about this. She didn't express her position on this matter, but Shilong and Li Zhu were slightly surprised by this matter. It seems that the relationship between the second young lady and Tang Hao is really worse than enemies. End of this chapter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 82, Digging a Yin Back. Jinrinai was in a coma for 7 days before tossing and turning to wake up. During these 7 days, Guangling stayed by her side, never leaving her. During this period, he could always hear Jinrinai's sleep-talking. As a titled Douluo, his keen ability is one of the best. Even if Jinrinai's voice is very small, he can still hear her whispering clearly, even more so. Not to mention that he was always observing the girl on the bed. It was also during this period of time that he seemed to have figured out something. Guangling. Grandpa. As soon as Jinrinai opened her eyes, she saw Guangling holding her breath next to her. Her eyes blinked slightly and her voice was a little weak. In the past 7 days, she had had a long dream. Most of the dreams were about people she didn't know, but she was sure that there must be specific content about this body's life experience hidden in this dream. She had to investigate who she really was, and why that guy Tang Hao had the same aura as hers. Yue, how is it? Seeing that Jinrinai had finally woken up, Guangling let go of his hanging heart. He stretched out his hand to caress Jinrinai's cheek, and gently rubbed it with the pulp of his thumb. In his eyes, Jinrinai saw several complex emotions on that face that made him worry day and night. She looked at Guangling, and she had never seen him, who usually likes to fight so much, showing so many emotions. Fluctuation. With eyes rolling, Jinrinai shook her head and said, "I'm fine, it's okay." Guangling replied, retracted his hand and said nothing more. In the past 7 days, there has been a lot of movement among the personnel directly dispatched by the enshrinement hall. Bibi Dong, who is in the Pope's hall, also learned about the whole story. As far as Tang Hao's bullying of Jinrinai was concerned, she felt that Tang Hao had no brains at all. As the second lady of the enshrinement hall, Jinrinai was backed by the 7 major priests. Although Bibi Dong she also doesn't like Jinrinai, but she will be scruples about the 7 major offerings. She believes that anyone who has nothing to do to trouble Jinrinai is really digging his own grave. However, Tang Hao's move is to put himself and Hao Xianzong on the most conspicuous dog's head, saying that Hao Xianzong is avoiding the sect and retiring. It seems that it is not completely true, right? With such a big commotion, no one would believe that Tang Hao's appearance has nothing to do with the Clear Sky School. Even though Tang Hao was expelled from the Clear Sky School many years ago, this matter had nothing to do with Bibi Dong, but she always felt an ominous premonition, so she sent spies from the Pope's palace to secretly search for Tang Hao's whereabouts. However, Tang Hao seemed to have evaporated from the world, and he couldn't find his whereabouts. Even if he searched the entire outer and central areas of Sunset Forest, he couldn't find it. After waking up, Jin Renai asked about Tang Hao. She hadn't eaten a drop of rice in the past few days, and her lips were very dry. Guangling subconsciously reached out and touched her lips, and handed her a bowl of rice. By kanji, I haven't found it yet, but the old man seriously injured him at the time. Logically speaking, he can't go far with his two burdens. This time, someone should have rescued him secretly. Ran away? Jin Renai lowered her eyes and frowned slightly. It seemed that she had to go to a yin. Tang Hao was first injured by the evolved flames of Julian's sword, and then Guangling added more weight. During the escape, he must have flawlessly taken care of a yin, and since Li spoke vaguely, Jin Renai simply went to kill a yin. Dig it back and see if there is any way to make her talk. After all, she should also know what Tang Hao knows. Seeing that Jin Renai was not in a good mood, Guangling also coaxed her, eat something first, Xiao Wu. Don't worry, this old man will not let this matter go. The same goes for Big Brother and the others. If Tang Hao can't be found, even if the Haoshan sect is closed, I will ask them to give an explanation. Haoshan sect? Jin Renai's eyes flashed slightly. How could she forget that there was this problem? Raising her eyes, she and Guangling looked at each other and obediently took the porridge that Guangling handed her. Guangling smiled with satisfaction and rubbed Jin Renai's head. Okay, Xiao Wu, I'm going to report to my brother. You have to rest for a while. If anything happens later, I will call you. Well, okay. Jin Renai nodded and said nothing more. Watching Guangling go, she put down the porridge, activating the soul power in her body. Jin Renai awakened the still sleeping Ice Crystal Phoenix. Little Phoenix, I need your help with something. What's the matter, Master? The little Phoenix woke up leisurely, with a childish voice filled with milky milk. It yawned long, and its mind had not yet turned around. Jin Renai, I had a dream in the past few days, but because the content of the dream was too messy, I couldn't remember it very clearly. You and I should be able to help me recall that part of the memory. Therefore, it may be necessary to please use up your soul power. The Ice Crystal Phoenix resides in her body, and it can naturally perceive her emotions perfectly. Of course, this also includes her emotions in dreams. Realizing that his master has woken up, the little Phoenix suddenly regained consciousness, and suddenly raised his head to look at the ray of pink consciousness floating in front of it. Master, are you awake? Yeah, Jin Renai responded, and little Phoenix wept with joy. Whoa, Master, you don't know how much soul power I spent to heal your internal injuries. The little Phoenix cried and shed tears. Jin Renai sighed slightly, shook her head, and said nothing more. Her injuries have recovered greatly, and her soul power level has also exceeded 40 during this period. To be honest, this may be a good thing for her. After the little Phoenix finished crying, it wiped away its tears. It raised its wings and approached the ray of consciousness in front of it, and said, Master, wait a moment, little Phoenix, I will start working now. Jin Renai nodded, and began to sit up in meditation. At this time, outside the Angel Palace, Hulina and Ziyu made an appointment to see Jin Renai together, some of which were Bibi Dong's orders, but more of them were the two brothers and sisters who cared from the bottom of their hearts. However, the site in front of them is the main hall where Jin Douluo is enshrined, and the two of them really didn't dare to rush in, so they could only hesitate outside. Not knowing what to do, Hulina hadn't spoken to Jin Renai face to face since the last farewell to Guangling Hall, but to be honest, she admitted that Jin Renai's strength was so strong. For some of her strength, she thought she just underestimated the enemy, but after watching the match at the Xiandao Great Soul Arena last time, she suddenly became sure that even if she tried her best, she might not be able to beat Jin Renai. Jin Renai is the leader among the leaders of their generation. She respects her and also likes her. After all, who wouldn't like a cute little girl? You guys, what are you doing standing outside? Do you want to see how glorious the Angel Palace is? The girl's soft voice came from the courtyard. Wearing a long white dress, her small face is rosy, and her facial features look extraordinarily delicate under the sunlight. At this time, she is like a ceramic doll, which makes people unable to take their eyes off. Brother, why are you dazed? End of this chapter. Chapter 83. Are you going to rob? Ziyu came to his senses at Tulina's call. He scratched his face in embarrassment and avoided Jin Renai's gaze towards them, but said nothing. Hulina looked at him, always feeling weird. What is her brother's expression? What do you want me to do? Jin Renai walked up to the two of them without knowing it. Hulina was slightly shocked. She didn't even notice the presence of Jin Renai's aura just now. She broke through level. Yet, I heard that you were injured, so Nana and I wanted to come and visit you. How are you doing now? Are you feeling better? Xiu asked cautiously. His concerns were quite different from Hulina's. The two brothers and sisters each have their own thoughts, but their goal is Jinrinayu in front of them. Jinrinayu looked at the two of them without thinking too much. She waved her hand. I'm fine, thank you for your concern. Yeah, Xiu nodded, and the atmosphere between the three of them instantly reached an awkward point. Xiu looked at Jinrinayu, not knowing what to say. Jinrinayu looked at Xiu, not knowing what was in her mind. Hulina looked at the two of them and always felt that they were not on the same channel at this time. Guangling and Qinglun came together from the direction of Qinglun Hall. Qinglun looked at the three people who were talking at the door, and his eyes stayed on Jinrinayu and Xiao. Xiao and that kid, it's a good match to stand together, he spoke subconsciously after hearing this. Guangling paused. Good match. His face froze, he frowned slightly, and looked at Qinglun at the side with a look of disdain. Third brother, you have something wrong with your eyes? That kid can tell at a glance that he is not good enough for my Xiao Yu, let alone talent. The question is better than good looking. Is he as good looking as my old man? Qinglun slowly asked a question. Why should I compete with you? Because Xiao Yu belongs to this old man. Guangling said anxiously. I'm not as good looking as this old man, so how can I be worthy of Xiao Yu? I'm not as good looking as this old man, so how can I be worthy of Xiao Yu? The Pope's palace, that kid is just a little soul sect, not to mention compared with the old man, he is far behind Xiao Yu. Xiao Yu doesn't need someone weaker than her. The two of them are not compatible at all. After finishing speaking, he snorted and turned his head away, not to look at Qinglun. Qinglun, she is obviously the eldest brother's granddaughter, but I don't know why Guangling has always been so precious to her, and he just mentioned that they are a good match. Why did Guangling react so much? It's weird. The two walked towards the Temple of Angels. Jinrinayu sensed the aura released by Guangling. She glanced at Guangling and saluted Qinglun. Grandpa Qinglun, 3 offerings, 5 offerings. Hulina and Xiu followed and saluted together. Qinglun nodded, signaling Jinrinayu to go in. Jinrinayu tilted her head and glanced at Hulina. Hulina understood, and the two of them didn't know what they were communicating with. Afterward, Hulina pulled Xiu away. Xiu looked confused. Nana, wait, we haven't done anything serious yet. The task Bibi Dong gave them was to find out the details from Jinrinayu. They had just met and hadn't chatted yet, so they just left. 3 and 5 worshippers obviously have something to say to her. It's not our turn. Brother. Can't you even understand this look on her face? Hulina frowned. She really didn't know where Xiu's eyes were looking. So it's really weird that he still talks about business when it's obvious. Just now Xiu was looking at Jinrinayu, and she didn't care about the expressions of those two people. Hulina didn't say anything. She dragged Xiu away. Anyway, Jinrinayu would come to them later. It was just a matter of time. In the Hall of Angels, Jinrinayu and Guangling Qinglun entered the main hall together. Jin Daoliu was discussing matters with the Golden Crocodile Douluo in the enshrining hall, so they did not come together. Qinglun used his soul power to check for Jinrinayu. He lowered his body, and to his surprise, the child's physical fitness was hundreds of times stronger than when he first met, and her bone and physical strength were also dozens of times higher than those of her peers. But it was just over a month. What happened in the end? There's such a big change. Seeing Qinglun frowning, Guangling thought something bad had happened. He hurriedly checked Jinrinayu's body and found no difference. Third brother, what's your expression? Guangling asked. Qinglun glanced at him and ignored the question directly. He turned his gaze to Jinrinayu and asked, Yuir, did you eat some treasures? Guangling, who was ignored, pouted slightly in displeasure. What? The third brother ignored him? When Jinrinayu mentioned the treasures of heaven and earth, she remembered that she still had a bunch of fairy grass in her soul guide. She nodded, not intending to hide it from Qinglun. I just ate some. No wonder, Qinglun said thoughtfully. After hearing this, Guangling interjected, Xiaoyu, when did you eat the treasures of heaven and earth? How come the old man doesn't know? Eat it when you're not around, Jinrinayu replied. Guangling puffed up her cheeks. You didn't even tell this old man. Do you expect her to tell you if you provoke her? Qinglun complained mercilessly. These days Guangling has been with Jinrinayu, and Jinrinayu said that it was eaten when Guangling was away. Doesn't that mean that this happened before Guangling missed the last time? Say, I really think too much? Looking at Qinglun's indifferent eyes, Guangling always felt that his status was threatened. Dare you? Is Xiaoyu going to take his place as the group favorite? Thinking of this, Guangling didn't think there was anything wrong, but if it were another person, he would be angry this time. It was just because it was Jinrinyu, so he didn't care. By the way, Grandpa Kinglun, I have a gift for you. Jinrinyu said she would take advantage of this moment to divide up the fairy grass first, so that she would not have to go looking for it one by one later, which would be very troublesome. Gift? What gift? Kinglun raised her eyebrows, but she didn't expect Jinrinyu to prepare a gift for him. Guangling on the side heard this, and without saying a word, she got in front of Jinrinyu's face and said, Xiao Wu, are you here? I'm here, yes, of course. Jinrinyu reached out and gently pushed Guangling's face away. Everyone has it? Oh, Guangling replied quietly. He thought only he and the third brother had it. Jinrinyu opened the soul guide and poured out dozens of fairy grasses from it. She picked up the Narcissus jade muscles and bones and handed them to Kinglun, saying, Grandpa Kinglun, this fairy grass can nourish the tendons and strengthen the bones. The 8 meridians are a good thing to strengthen the foundation and cultivate the vitality, and it will make the foundation deeper. Narcissus jade muscle bone and Kirin Tongshan chrysanthemum have the same effect and the same effect. Originally, Jinrinyu was planning to give Kirin Tongshan chrysanthemum to Kinglun, but who knew that a dusty heart jumped out of the middle, and the second best was the best. In fact, Narcissus jade muscles and bones are also good. There is not much difference between the two, and even the effect of Narcissus jade muscles and bones on improving soul power will be more obvious after receiving the fairy grass from Jinrinyu. Kinglun couldn't help but his eyes lit up. As a titled Douluo, he certainly knew how precious these fairy grasses were. At that moment, he and Guangling couldn't help but stare. Xiao Wu, are you going to rob? Digression, button group. 295, 208, 551, there's a lottery. End of this chapter. Chapter 84. That's not the case. Jinrinyu glanced at Guangling. Grandpa Guangling, say which one you like. These fairy herbs basically have the same effect on you, and there is nothing easy to distribute. Of course, except for this, Acacia Heartbroken Red. Before being picked, Acacia Heartbroken Red looks like an ordinary white flower. The flower is about the size of a palm and looks like a peony. There are no grass leaves. There is a large stone connected under the rhizome. The stone is completely black and weighs an astonishing amount. Among the white flowers on the body, there are some astonishing patches of red, blood-like red, which looks a bit thrilling. Guangling took a fancy to this seemingly ordinary but extraordinary Acacia Heartbroken Red at a glance. He set his sights on the Acacia Heartbroken Red and couldn't help but ask, why other than that? Jinrinyu followed Guangling's gaze. Because Acacia Heartbroken Red recognizes the Lord, she explained, if you want to pick it, you need to think of your loved one in your heart when picking it, and you can pick it with sincerity. But if there is a slight wavering, it will fail. That's it. Guangling and Kinglun looked at each other subconsciously, thinking that this fairy grass was very special, but in Kinglun's mind, none of them could pick off this fairy grass. After all, the lover they have never owned this kind of thing, and the few people with rock-like hearts, how can they know what love is? This fairy grass, I guess it can only be tried by the elder brother, right? Kinglun thought this, and Guangling couldn't help but want to try to see if he could make Xiang Xinhong recognize his master. The three of them sat at the table. Guangling was lying on the table. He looked at Xiang Xinhong in front of him, and always felt feeling that this thing was somewhat similar to Jinrinyu's martial spirit aura. He thought about it and asked, Xiao Wu, is its effect better than other fairy grasses? Jinrinyu nodded. After eating the love sickness Heartbroken Red, it has the same immortal power as the heaven and the earth, and it can increase the soul power by at least 10 levels. Of course, this is only limited to the title Douluo. Similarly, after taking it will also have a comprehensive transformation of the body, with the effect of life and death, flesh and blood, improve the soul power by 10 levels or more, the living and the dead, flesh and bones. Guangling stood up suddenly, and both he and Kinglun looked at each other in surprise. This effect was more than just better. Does such a special fairy grass really exist in heaven and earth? Seeing the shocked expressions of the two of them, Jinrinyu didn't say anything. She looked at the Heartbroken Red. When she was in the Ice and Fire Eyes, Jinrinyu had thought about taking it off. Maybe her emotions were too complicated, she failed to pick it off, so she had no choice but to put it in the soul guide to keep it, and see if a destined person would show up one day to pick it off. Of course, this destined person is limited to people who are not against her. Jinrinyu doesn't know what happened to Kinglun and Guangling when they were young, including several other worshippers, but as far as she knows, Among their 7 major worshippers, only Jin Daoliu has a son and a granddaughter, and the others still have a son and a granddaughter. They are all lonely and widowed old people. If you think about it, you should have no lover. Otherwise, how can you still be single at the age of 90? This is not normal. So ever since she brought back Acacia Heartbroken Red, Jin Renai never thought that someone could make the fairy grass recognize its owner. If it wasn't for Tang San taking it back to Xiao Wu, she wouldn't be too lazy to move it, because she couldn't absorb it just by looking at it. It's so uncomfortable seeing that Guangling was so curious about this fairy grass. Jin Renai sent it to Guangling by mistake. Grandpa Guangling, why don't you give it a try? What if they had an unforgettable lover when they were young? Guangling looked at Acacia Heartbroken Red in front of him, didn't make a move immediately, and didn't know what he thought of. He poked King Lun's arm with his elbow, and signaled, "Third brother, why don't you try it first?" King Lun was speechless. He doesn't really want to try. He is just a lonely old man. Whatever he tries, it will be in vain. If you want to try it, you can try it yourself. You don't have to hold me back, King Lun replied. He didn't know why Guangling wanted to try this. He glanced at Jin Renai subconsciously, and suddenly the scene that Guangling had just done appeared in his mind. The inexplicable reaction to the matter of saying good match to him. King Lun frowned. Could it be possible? Little Moon. At this time, the 2 brothers Qianj and Jiangmo walked into the angel hall with a big box and a small box of qi and blood-invigorating medicine. Before they saw anyone, Jin Renai and the others heard Jiangmo's slightly snarling voice. King Lun and Guangling's thoughts were interrupted. They looked at each other, and then stood up together with Jin Renai. Grandpa Jiangmo, Grandpa Qianj. Jin Renai saluted, respectfully. You don't need to be too polite, Xiao Wu. 15 Jin Douluo stepped forward and touched her head, and put the prepared tonic on the stool. His eyes swept over the dozens of fairy grasses on the table, and he couldn't help but slightly opened his eyes, feeling a little surprised. 3 brother, this is it. King Lun and Guangling were both here. Qianj and Douluo took it for granted that these heavenly and earthly treasures were found by the 2 of them for Jin Renai. However, these herbs were definitely extraordinary. How could there be so many of them at once? It was 5th brother who went to rob several sects, right? Adhering to a skeptical attitude, 15 Jin Douluo questioned King Lun. When Jiangmo Douluo saw the pile on the table, his reaction was almost the same as that of Guangling. I'll go, there are so many good things. 5th brother, where are you going? Have you been robbed? Jin Renai raised her eyebrows slightly and couldn't help complaining in her heart that their brain circuits were even the same. You just went to rob. I didn't bring this back, Guangling retorted. He crossed his arms, hummed softly, and turned his head away. Why does Lao Qi think of him for everything? It's really too much? Seeing this, King Lun shook his head, and said truthfully, these are all brought back by Yue, and have nothing to do with Lao Wu. Don't get me wrong. Qianj Douluo and Demon Conquering Douluo were startled. The 2 brothers looked at Jin Renai with disbelief. Demon Conquering Douluo said in surprise, Xiao Yue, you brought us back from robbery. Jin Renai, thank you so much for your 3 sentences. What nonsense. Is Xiao Wu the kind of person who robs indiscriminately? 1000 Jin Douluo slapped Jiangmo Douluo on the back of the head. I went to rob, but if it was Jin Renai, it must have been obtained by legitimate means, otherwise she is now the sole master. How can she rob others? It is good not to be robbed by others. Elder brother, Demon Conquering Douluo received a slap, with some resentment in his eyes. He was making a reasonable guess. What's wrong with that? It's useless to call me brother, Qianj Douluo said expressionlessly. Seeing this, Jin Renai couldn't help but come out to smooth things over and said, okay, Grandpa Qianj, Grandpa Jiangmo, you 2 don't quarrel. Just as you are here, I don't have to make a special trip. Take a look inside these fairy grass, whichever one you like. Send it to you. End of this chapter. Chapter 85. Jin Renai made a please gesture, signaling Qianj Douluo and Demon Conquering Douluo to come and see each other. The 2 brothers looked at each other. After living for so many years, this was the first time they had seen such an imposing person. Xiao Wu, don't you keep these heavenly and earthly treasures for yourself to absorb and give them to us? Jiangmo Douluo looked at the fairy grass on the table, and asked Jin Renai what he thought. They were all titled Douluo, and they could tell at a glance whether these fairy grasses were precious or not, and people like them who had already cultivated people with bottlenecks. Although these things are helpful to them, they are far less than they are to Jin Renai. If Jin Renai keeps them all for her own use, Maybe before she turns 30, she will be able to become a title Douluo and become a continental master. The youngest title Douluo soul master in the world. Is there anyone who eats so much fairy grass all day long and isn't afraid of exploding to death? Jinrinai complained that after eating only 2 plants, she actually felt that her body was a little unable to digest it. Although it could be absorbed every few years, the content of her second test of kindness was body training, so there was really no need to do more. Go eat these things. Oh, demon-conquering Douluo responded, that's right. Eating too much is not good. I forgot that your physical condition is not very optimistic. People who can always accept being smashed by heaven, material and earth treasures must first have good physical fitness, and Jinrinai was just a thin kitten in Qianjin Jiangmo's memory. Even if they want to throw things on her, they have to wait. She's in better shape. However, Jiangmo was still very curious as to where Jinrinai dug these things from. They had lived for so many years and had traveled across the continent when they were young, but they had never seen so many extraordinary herbs. After thinking about it, Jiangmo's eyes stayed on Xiang Xinheng's body. It is not difficult to know that he also became interested in this fairy grass. Grandpa subduing demon, try. Jinrinai encouraged. She once again explained the special characteristics of love sickness read to Qianjin Jiangmo. To be honest, if she still wanted to give it a try after learning the conditions for recognizing the master, Jinrinai felt that there must be something to eat. Otherwise, how could we insist on giving it a try? Just try it. Under the instigation of Jinrinai, Jiangmo Douluo really picked up the love sickness heartbroken red. He held the flower, closed his eyes, and he didn't know what appeared in his mind. People can't see why. I can't do this, brother, you try. He handed the love sickness broken heart red to 15 Jun Douluo, but 1,000 Jun Douluo didn't say anything. He took the love sick heartbroken red, but the result was the same as Jiangmo Douluo. Failing to make the fairy grass recognize its master, Jinrinai stared at the two of them, wanting to get something out of the change in their expressions, but the two brothers hadn't had much emotional fluctuations. After putting down the love sickness heartbroken red, they each chose their own strains. Likes herbs? 15 Jun Douluo said with a smile. Xiao Wu, thank you, you're welcome, you're welcome. Jinrinai smiled and waved her hands. It's a pity that I didn't get any melons after getting the fairy grass. He was so happy to conquer the devil. He turned around and completely forgot about the heartbreaking incident. He had to retreat to absorb the fairy grass these days, so he didn't chat much with Guangling Guangling. Jinrinai left in a hurry, and Jun Douluo didn't stay too long. Since Jinrinai had important things to do later, she chose a fairy grass suitable for Lion Douluo and let Jinrenyu do it. Luo handed it over. 15-ton Douluo responded, and then left the angel hall. At this time, only Guangling, Guangling and Jinrinai were left in the room after Guangling got Narcissus Jade Muscle and Bone. He didn't think about trying love sickness broken heart red again, so his and Jinrinai's eyes stayed on Guangling. Guangling felt a little uncomfortable being stared at, so he muttered, why are you looking at me like this? I don't have any flowers on my face. It is true that there are no flowers, but Grandpa Guangling, you have been staring at this flower, why don't you give it a try? Jinrinai said quietly. She adheres to the principle of eating melons, but she really wants to know who Guangling is pretending to be. The feelings that can make Xiangxi heartbroken red recognized cannot be summed up by words such as I like you and I like you very much. To put it bluntly, it is also a feeling that can sacrifice one's life for the other person, but this kind of feeling, Jinrinai, she felt that it was impossible to appear in this group of grandfathers, and she didn't know what she was expecting. She actually thought that Guangling could pick this flower. On the other hand, Guangling never left Guangling's eyes. He needs to confirm one thing now. After a while, he raised his eyes and glanced at Jinrinai, but it was only a glance, and he turned his gaze back to Guangling. On the body, old 5, I will go to the main hall to discuss things later. If you are so hesitant, why not come back to pick after the discussion is over? She didn't know if Guangling meant what she said. Jinrinai glanced at him and couldn't see the reason from his face. I have to say that there is a difference in living a long time, being able to control one's expression freely to prevent others from finding out the clues. No, the old man will choose now, Guangling yelled. If he came back to pick after the discussion was over, then there would only be some that were picked, so he wouldn't pick what they didn't want. After saying that, he picked up the lovesick heartbroken red under the watchful eyes of Guangling and Jinrinai. It didn't take long for the lovesickness heartbroken red to bloom in his hands. Its flowers became huge, and a golden red light shone above it. Seeing this, Guangling and Jinrinai were all shocked. The fifth guy, it can't be true. King Lun subconsciously looked at Jin Rinayu, only to see Jin Rinayu's eyes moving slightly, and there seemed to be some disappointment in her eyes. How should I tell my brother about this? King Lun frowned slightly, and didn't know what happened to these two people. How long has it been since they fell in love? No, it's impossible. Looking at Xiao Yu's expression, it doesn't look like she's in a relationship, so could it be? Did he think too much? He actually made Xiang Xianxinhong recognize his master. Lu Yaxin, who was hidden in Guangling's soul guide, was awakened by the breath of Acacia Broken Heart. And she couldn't help but feel a little surprised when she saw Guangling holding the flower in her hand. Guangling's lips parted slightly, and his eyes subconsciously looked at Jin Rinayu secretly, not knowing what he was thinking. Master, this conspicuous bag has a sweetheart. The little phoenix suddenly jumped out. It had been comprehending the divine thread in Jin Rinayu's body, but it spent a lot of soul power and failed to fully explore the memory inside. It happened to smell the scent of the immortal product and wanted to take a look. Look closely, and find that it was Guangling who made Xiang Xianhong recognize his master. He was surprised by this as early as when Jin Rinayu took Acacia Heartbroken Red away. Little Phoenix had learned from Jin Rinayu about the function of this immortal plant and the conditions for recognizing its owner. Its owner failed to get this fairy plant to recognize its owner, but he didn't expect this conspicuous bag to succeed. Do you love warriors? What a surprise! Jin Rinayu was speechless. She didn't know why, but while she was looking forward to eating Guangling's melon, she was a little disappointed after seeing him successfully pick the Xiang Xianxinrao. She reached out and touched her left chest. Jin Rinayu lowered her eyes slightly. Should she? Maybe you like him. Digression, prize-winning quiz session. What exactly was the illusion that Guangling encountered on the way to the extreme north? This is a very broad question. If you answer correctly, you will be given 500 coins. Remember to join the group. In addition, some lines are buried very obscurely and are not directly explained. They are basically hidden and I don't know what I was thinking about. I will explain it later. No more today. See you tomorrow. End of this chapter. Chapter 86. Not on the same channel at all. Lao Wu, who are you falling in love with? On the way to the main hall, King Lun couldn't help but gossip aloud about Guangling just now in the Temple of Angels. Jin Rinayu didn't behave like she and Guangling were in a relationship. From this, it can be seen that his previous thoughts should be superfluous, but if it wasn't for Xiao Yu, then Guangling was. Who are you dating, or is he unrequited love? Facing King Lun's question, Guangling didn't choose to answer. He was still thinking about Jin Rinayu's reaction just now. He seemed a little disappointed, and seemed to be sad about something because he took her. Is it because the Heartbroken Red was taken away? So, he had to find something to compensate her, otherwise it would be bad if Xiao Yu got sulky. With this idea in mind, Guangling walked quickly towards the main hall, ignoring King Lun who had been looking at him, as if he didn't hear King Lun talking to him just now. King Lun, is this person crazy? However, since the matter had nothing to do with Jin Rinayu, King Lun didn't plan to explain the matter to Jin Douluo. After all, it was impossible for the elder brother to take care of the fifth's private life, and of course, he didn't have the interest to take care of it at this time. The Angel Palace, except for Jin Douluo and Jin Rinayu, each of the 7 major offerings was given a fairy grass. She put away all the rest, and then used her soul power to summon the afterimage of the ice crystal phoenix. Little Phoenix, have you found it? I found a bit of it, but it's not complete. Some of the memories are too vague, and I can't even see the little phoenix. Ice Crystal Phoenix said, a little troubled since the formation of the barrier between Luving and Jin Rinayu. A strand of divine thread has appeared in the body of its owner, but unfortunately, that strand of divine thread is a bit too weak, and there is no way to probe deeper. Now, apart from knowing that Jin Rinayu's life experience is related to the soul beast, it has not found out anything else. Master, go to the mountain stream. There should be something you want in there, Ice Crystal Phoenix said. Where's the Blue Silver Emperor's true body? Jin Rinayu asked. Yes, Master, between that smelly dick and that grass that hurt you last time, Little Phoenix, I will choose that grass. Sure enough, things were similar to what she thought. She must go to Ayin's place. I see. Jin Rinayu replied without saying anything. She withdrew her soul power and brought Little Phoenix back into her body. Jin Rinayu went to the closet and picked out an icy blue dress to put on. Jin Rinayu found that the dress was a little shorter than before. Has it grown taller? She murmured, then walked to the full-length mirror and took a look in the mirror. The childishness on her face has faded a lot, and her legs have indeed grown a bit longer. Jin Rinayu opened her lips slightly. Is it because of the second test of kindness? Speaking of the second test of kindness, she suddenly remembered that this body training trial only lasted 3 months. During these 3 months, she had to pass the 10th level of the kindness test. So far, she has not entered the kindness test. I have seen the difficulty of the level in the secret realm, and I have a big heart. Ugh, sighing lightly, Jinru now rubbed the center of her brows. She is in a very messy mood right now. And there is no way for her to do the body training for the second test going to sit on the sofa. Jinru seemed to have thought of something now that she has obtained the Jiang bow that was rewarded by the system. Should she ask Guangling to teach her how to play the bow? After thinking about it, Jinru pursed her lips, lowered her eyes slightly, and said softly, "Forget it." Guangling had just taken off his love sickness, and he was probably thinking about his sweetheart at the moment, so he had no time to teach her how to play bow. When it comes to Guangling, Jinru has a feeling of confusion. She always feels that she has become more emotionally sensitive, but she can't find out what caused it. It seems that since she killed the Nether Flower for 5 years, Queen, she started to look different from before. Is it because of the Nether Flower Emperor, or because of the God of Kindness? Jinru couldn't figure it out. In the quiet room, the girl on the sofa fell into deep silence at the same time. The little phoenix in Jinru's body couldn't help but widen his eyes as he looked at the divine threads that were spreading crazily in front of him. What happened to its owner? The soul power in Jinru's body has always been gentle and powerful, and her temperament is not bad, so from the perspective of little phoenix, its environment is a very pure place, which is why it can stay in Jinru for a long time. The reason why the soul power in Renyu's body cannot be increased, however, it is different now. The original pure and clean environment was occupied by this red thread. Several split threads were intertwined in front of little phoenix. Among them, the memory of Jinru and Guangling's experience together dominated. Little phoenix looked at it. "It's all numb. Dare to love that your master likes that conspicuous bag? That eye-catching bag has just picked the love sickness heartbroken red. Why did its owner step into the abyss in one step? No, absolutely not." The little phoenix stood up, intending to warn Jinru, but just when it was about to take action, the wisp of divine thread suddenly took control of its body. Through the wisp of divine thread, the little phoenix didn't know what it saw. Its pupils opened suddenly, and its body trembled uncontrollably. After a while, it seemed to be full of thoughts and couldn't say anything. An hour passed. Jinru got up from the sofa. She went to stand by the window for a while, then spread the wings of the ice phoenix, and flew towards a big mountain near the Holy Soul village. "Young master, the breath is over there." "It is good," Jinru answered, and after flying for half an hour, under the guidance of Lu Yaxin, she stopped in front of a waterfall. When Guangling left the Angel Palace, Jinru asked him for his soul guide. After all, there were some things that Lu Yaxin needed to do. Behind the waterfall, Lu Yaxin said, "Ah." Jinru nodded and rushed into the waterfall. A green protective barrier appeared on her body, which was emitted by Lu Yaxin, so when she rushed in, she didn't get wet at all. In the cave behind the waterfall, there is only a blue-silver grass, some unburned firewood and a few pieces of tattered cloth. "Young master, it's her." Lu Yaxin appeared from the soul guide. She transformed into human form, squatted in front of Lan Yinkeo and injected a burst of soul power. The green soul power entered Lan Yinkeo's body, and Lan Yinkeo seemed to be awakened. She shook her body as if in response to Lu Yaxin's movements. "How can we restore her human form?" Jinru asked. "Even if a yin can regain consciousness now, they may not be able to understand what she is saying, let alone Lu Yaxin's current soul power can only confirm that her soul is still hidden in her body. Using the petals given to the young master last time can help her restore her human form, but young master, you need to think twice about this. It is a token left by the master, and it can help the young master break through the restriction. If it is used on her, young master, you..." End of this chapter. Chapter 87. Lu Yaxin frowned slightly, not knowing what to say. The petals of the 9-petal fairy lotus have miraculous effects, but the first master only produced 3 petals. As far as she knows, one of the masters was given to a man many years ago, and one was on her body, and the remaining one. She uploaded a letter to her saying that it was left for the young master, but last time Lu Yaxin did not detect the aura of the 9-petal Immortal Lotus token on Jinru, but on Tang. How Lu Yaxin is not stupid. From Guangling, she learned that Jinru was raised by that man. At that time, the master should have known that man, otherwise it would be impossible to entrust the young master to that man. However, that man dared to swallow the Lord's token alone. It is really abhorrent. And now the young master wants to use another token to help his wife regain her human form? Lu Yaxin feels that this is a bit unworthy. How can a heartless human being be blessed by the Lord? He doesn't deserve it. Jin Renai glanced at Lu Yaxin, and she said, "Don't worry that I won't be able to break through the restriction. Yaxin, help her regain her human form. Things have priorities, and now she just wants to know what happened in the first place. It is impossible for Ayin to know everything. At present, she only knows about Ayin's breakthrough point. As long as Ayin speaks, everything will be easy to handle." And according to Xiao Fenghuang, in that vague memory, Ayin was a very important person. If she wanted to know those things as soon as possible, she could only start from this perspective. "Young master," but Lu Yaxin was about to say something, but the next moment, Jin Renai interrupted her. "Listen to me, this thing won't be in vain." Lu Yaxin frowned, but in the end she couldn't hold back Jin Renai. She took the petals from Jin Renai's hand, and used her soul power to inject the petals into the body of the blue-silver grass. After a while, the blue-silver grass in front of Jin Renai glowed with golden light, and little stars gathered in the body of the blue-silver grass. Under the infusion of LV Yaxin, the blue-silver grass grew rapidly, and its body transformed into a human figure in the golden light. The human figure had long light blue hair and a slim figure. The blue dress set off her figure. Falling from the sky, standing firmly on the ground, slowly opened his eyes. Lu Yaxin withdrew her soul power. She stood next to Jin Renai and turned her head away. She really didn't want to look at Ayin. The aura emanating from Ayin's body is actually not far from her. This is enough to prove that Ayin has never been stained with blood, nor has he committed any slaughter. Soul beasts with this aura have always been relatively gentle. Yaxin would like to see this kind of soul beast very much, but with Tang Hao in front of her, she really can't feel good about Ayin. As for Ayin, when he opened his eyes, he saw Jin Renai and Lu Yaxin standing in front of him. When she saw Jin Renai, Ayin visibly paused, her eyes moved slightly, and there were various emotions in her eyes, including disbelief, surprise, and guilt. "Ziner," she muttered, her eyes suddenly filled with tears. Jin Renai looked at her, and lightly pursed her lips. "My name is Jin Renai." Jin Renai. Ayin was slightly taken aback, as if thinking of something. "Are you Ayu?" she asked in surprise. "Yes," Jin Renai nodded. Ayin looked at her. The guilt in his eyes seemed to deepen. "Ayu." Lu Yaxin didn't intend to talk nonsense with her. She said directly, "Lan Yin Huang, the aura of my patriarch disappeared here. Have you seen my patriarch?" Ayin's eyes drooped slightly, but she didn't answer the question immediately. She seemed to be struggling with something. Lu Yaxin also told Ayin about Tang Hao when she saw this, and Jin Renai let her talk without intending to stop her. "What?" Heyoda. After listening to Lu Yaxin's words, Ayin's mood suddenly fell to the bottom. It's not that she didn't know that Tang Hao used Jiuxner's petals. She always thought that Tang Hao would treat Ayu well, but she didn't expect that Tang Hao had been lying to her all these years, and even hurt Ayu. To prevent Ayin from believing it, Lu Yaxin sent the scene she saw into Ayin's mind with her soul power. Ayin's pupils trembled slightly, and she took a few steps back suddenly. Her face was full of disbelief. How could he? The Lord's token was taken by him alone, and it was also his fault that the young lord almost starved to death when he was a child. "Blue Silver Emperor, do you still have any chances for him?" Lu Yaxin said coldly. What she hates most is the love between soul beasts and humans. If Jiayu's Einar hadn't fallen in love with that human, she wouldn't have waited so hard for so many years. News that guy Tang Hao is really hateful. If given the chance, she would definitely end his life with her own hands. Ayin shook his head, at a loss. He really couldn't believe that Tang Hao would do such a thing. Jiayu's honor had saved them and given them a place of stability. How could he do harm? What about the month? It is immoral enough to steal the token that Jiayu's honor left for Ayu. Unexpectedly, Ayin fell to the ground, shedding tears of remorse. She covered her cheeks with her hands. She was always kind and couldn't get through this hurdle at all. She really never thought that Tang Hao would be like this. When Tang Hao snatched that petal at the time, she was only conscious and couldn't stop it at all. Tang Hao had promised her to take good care of Ayu, but she never thought that this would happen. Jin Renai and Lu Yaxin just looked at Ayin in pain. Jin Renai didn't speak, and didn't know what she was thinking, but Lu Yaxin, she didn't want to sympathize with Ayin. The one who hurt her most was her young master. She is too lazy to be a saint to sympathize with a soul beast that is not sure about people for a long time. Ayin cried until her eyes were red and swollen. Her human form was restored with the help of Lu Yaxin. Although she lost her cultivation, she could practice again in human form. She adjusted her emotions and stood up unsteadily, and then looked at Jinrinai guiltily, and said, "Ayu, just ask if you want to know anything, as long as I know, I will tell you." Jinrinai looked at her and was silent for a while. "My mother, where did you go?" she asked. Ayin pursed her lips, her face was a little ugly. "Xioner died 10 years ago?" Both Jinrinai and Lu Yaxin were silent. They had long guessed Xiuxin'er's fall, but they needed someone to confirm it. 10 years ago? Xioner entrusted you to me. I let Tang Hao take you back to have a good life. Who knows, 4 years later, he suddenly came and told me that he wanted revenge, so he accepted it. The petals that Xioner left for Xiao Wu, at that time, I couldn't stop him, I could only let him do wrong things. As she said that, Ayin felt sad for a while. She really didn't expect that she would see the wrong person regarding this. Jinrinai nodded without any emotional fluctuations. "How did my mother die?" she asked again. Ayin lowered his eyes and said, "It's time." "Time? What time?" Jinrinai frowned and asked. Ayin paused for a while and said, "I don't know the details, but Ayu, Xioner has used her own soul power to warm and nourish you for many years. You are already going against the sky to be sealed in the flower bud, so many years have passed. Her original source has been exhausted. No matter whether there is the 20-year thunder tribulation, she will not be able to survive." Speaking of this, Ayin seemed to remember something, and she said again, "However, Xioner once mentioned that she was able to keep you warm in the buds not only with soul power, but also with other things. But I don't know the specifics." Xioner didn't say much, but I can feel that her cultivation method is different from ordinary soul beasts. Even the title Douluo may not be able to easily see that she is a soul beast. Therefore, she has been in the human world for a long time. When I saw you, it was about 15 years ago, according to what Xioner said. Your current age should be 90 years old. Jinrinai didn't care how old she was. Anyway, she was an adult now, so it didn't matter how old he was. There are still many doubts about Xiuxin'er. A 19-year-old soul beast cannot control the growth of a baby. There must be something hidden in it. However, if there is such a relationship between Ayin and Jiu Xioner, will she still choose to be with Tang Hao after this incident? Looking at Ayin, Jinrinai did not speak. Ayin met Jinrinai's eyes and didn't know what to say. Her complexion was a bit complicated, and she finally chose to remain silent. A trace of reluctance and entanglement. The corner of her mouth moved slightly. She turned around and said, "Yaxin, let's go, little lord." Jinrinai's sudden decision made Lu Yaxin a little confused. "Just gone? Listen to me." Jinrinai didn't look back. Lu Yaxin felt unwilling. She clenched her fists, and finally followed Jinrinai's footsteps. Ayu, end of this chapter. Chapter 88. You must be happy. Ayin's voice sounded behind Jinrinai and Lu Yaxin. Her expression was a little anxious, but also a little difficult to say. The corner of Jinrinai's mouth smiled slightly, as if she had expected this situation a long time ago. She turned her head and looked at Ayin and asked, "Is there anything else?" Although Ayin regained her human form with the help of Lu Yaxin, after all, her former cultivation is gone. If she doesn't make plans for herself now, it will be difficult for her to even leave here now that Tang Hao has done that kind of thing. There is no way she can be with him again. Although she sacrificed, she only contributed her soul ring and cultivation level. Her soul is still there. Since it was Jiu Xioner who gave it to her this time, if she had a chance to live again, she would definitely protect Jinrinai, even if she was against Tang Hao. "Ayu, take me with you," Ayin said with a firm expression. Lu Yaxin glanced at Jinrinai, and suddenly understood what her young master was planning. She looked at Ayin quietly, waiting for Jinrinai to speak. To be honest, Jinrinai didn't believe Ayin, but she wasn't a kind person either. She exchanged Ayin's life with the petals of the Nine-Petal Immortal Lotus, so this life could only be hers. Ayin has told everything he wants to know, and it's time to take it in. "Okay," Jinrinai replied, "but I have a condition." "What?" Ayin asked. "Erase the memory of the past," she wrote lightly. "What?" Ayin opened his eyes slightly and couldn't help but pause. Jinrinai looked at her without any emotional fluctuations in her eyes. She never traded at a loss. The reason why she chose to help Ayin transform into form was not only to know about Xiuxin'er, but also for another reason. She wants Tang Hao to taste what it's like to be an enemy with his lover. In some things, it is more enjoyable to kill one's heart than to hurt one's body. Ayin hesitated for a while, and finally agreed to the conditions proposed by Jinrinai. She has already made a mistake once, and she must not do it a second time. From now on, Tang Hao will no longer be her lover. Lu Yaxin erased a Yin's memory, but she never expected that Jin Renai could make Lan Yin Huang willingly join their camp. It seems that she is not just a 10-year-old child at heart leaving the mountain stream. Jin Renai took a Yin to the Soul Beast Forest. A Yin's memory was erased, and it was impossible to call her by her original name again. Jin Renai thought about it, but couldn't think of a good name, so she handed over the task of choosing a name to Lu Yaxin. Lu Yaxin said casually, and directly finalized a name. Jiu Lan. Jin Renai thought the name was very rustic, but Jiu Lan didn't have any objections, so she didn't say anything. Perhaps it was the effect of the 9-petal fairy lotus. Jiulan's soul power level was not as low as Jin Renai thought. She gave Jiulan a fairy grass. After absorbing it, Jiulan reached the level of the soul sect. In other words, she was at the same level as her. If it is not a soul beast, naturally it cannot produce soul rings by itself, so Jin Renai took her to hunt the soul beasts. After selecting the first 3 soul rings, several days have passed. The two returned to Wuhan City together, and happened to meet Snake Lance Douluo, who came back to report. Second miss. She long saluted without saying anything. Jin Renai nodded symbolically, and went directly to the offering hall. Jiu Lan and Shilong looked at each other, and they passed each other, perhaps because they were unfamiliar. Shilong subconsciously looked at Jiu Lan a few more times. He frowned slightly, as if he felt a little strange, and then he left Wulan. Soul City went to Xiandao Palace Temple of Angels. When Jin Renai came back, she happened to bump into Guangling picking up a room and sweeping the yard. It was obvious that he was being punished. He made his own decisions and ran away from home, but before he could protect Jin Renai, Jin Daoliu only punished him by sweeping the floor in the Angel Palace, which was already an open policy. If it weren't for Jin Renai's private plea, he would have been ready to have Guangling imprison him directly. After 3 months of confinement, Jin Daoliu gave up his original idea after considering Jin Renai's appeal. He gave Guangling freedom, but Guangling had to clean the house in the Angel Palace, or work as a coolie for short. This is Guangling's 5th day of sweeping. He has been fishing for 3 days and drying nets for 2 days. He has not cleaned the yard even after sweeping it. No, he has to sweep it several times a day. Sometimes when Jin Daoliu is away, he sweeps the yard clean. He just sneaked out to play, and when he came back after playing, he was punished. King Lun didn't know what to say when he saw this. Guangling sneaked out, most likely to meet his sweetheart. He thought so, but never followed him. However, Guangling still went out at the risk of being fined. In fact, he wanted to buy some good things for Jin Renai. When Jin Renai came back, he had to make her happy while sweeping the floor. Guangling thought about what he should sneak out to buy today, until he looked up and saw a familiar face. Little Moon. Guangling's first reaction when he saw Jin Renai was to throw away the broom. He opened his arms and hugged Jin Renai, but it frightened Jiu Lan, who was behind Jin Renai. She looked at Guangling and blinked her eyes. This guy? Is it the young masters? Since Lu Yaxin was called young master Jin Renai, Jiu Lan also called her young master. Jin Renai had no objections, and the three reached their respective ideas in this way, being hugged by Guangling so suddenly. Jin Renai was also a little stunned. Her heart was pounding. The two bodies were close to each other, feeling each other's heartbeat. Jin Renai pushed away the person in front of her uncomfortably. His cheeks were slightly red. He tilted his head, and quickly changed the subject. Grandpa Guangling, why are you sweeping the floor? Guangling pouted and explained, I'm not the eldest brother yet. I have to eat and live for free without paying for it. I have no choice. The money I have has its own uses and cannot be used to pay rent. That's not right. I can only do hard work to repay it. Oh, Jin Renai responded casually. It seems that Jin Daoliu treated Guangling quite well. Yes, Guangling nodded, then turned his gaze to Jiu Lan behind Jin Renai. Xiao Wu, who is she? Why do you bring someone back after you go out? Last time it was Lu Yaxin, this time it's this woman. Is his Xiao Wu going out to be a human trafficker? Oh, I forgot to introduce, Grandpa Guangling. This is Jiulan. This is Guangling Douluo, the 5th priest of Wuhan Hall. You can call him the 5th priest, or you can call him Guangling Douluo. After introducing the two to each other, Jiulan nodded politely to Guangling just like Lu Yaxin did back then. Guangling only glanced at her and then turned to Jin Renai. Jiu Lan was a little embarrassed, but she didn't say anything. She pursed her lips, and it was not difficult to see that this 5th priest liked her young master very much. Xiao Wu, I have bought you many kinds of gifts. Do you want to go and take a look? Guangling doesn't care about other people. He only has Jinrinyu in his eyes. He just wants to make her happy. The gift is from him. Carefully selected, he felt that Jinrinyu would definitely like it. As soon as she heard that there was a gift, Jinrinyu couldn't help but look at him. Look, her eyes are big, and the childishness on her face has faded a lot. At this moment, she looks more like an adult. Guangling looked at her, slightly lost in thought, and said, "Come with me," he said. Jinrinyu answered, first arranged Jiu Lan in her room, and then followed Guangling to his room. The two are next door. In fact, it doesn't make much difference whether Jiu Lan follows her or not. It's just that Guangling doesn't want Jiu Lan to follow him. Seeing how mysterious he is, Jinrinyu doesn't let Jiu Lan follow him. Jiu Lan is a discerning person. She knows that the relationship between these two people is not simple, so naturally she won't ask for trouble. That is, Liu Yaxin is still in the soul guide device. Aren't they afraid that she will hear something they shouldn't? As soon as the idea came to his head, the door of the room was opened. The visitor was Jinrinyu. She left the soul guide in her room and then went to the next door. Jiu Lan, sister, I didn't mean to be a crow-mouthed person next door. Before Jinrinyu entered the room, Guangling covered her eyes. There's a surprise. When Guangling said this, Jinrinyu was fine. He walked behind her and carefully let her enter the room. Guangling snapped his fingers, and Jinrinyu's eyes suddenly lit up. The room was full of fireflies. The lights in the room were turned off early, and the curtains were drawn. Countless fireflies flew in the spacious room, covering the whole room with a blue-purple coat. They flew irregularly before Jinrinyu's eyes, flashing, and the shining light was like a pearl in the dark night, which was particularly eye-catching. Jinrinyu looked at everything in front of her, slightly surprised. Where did he catch so many fireflies? The scene before her eyes was picturesque. Jinrinyu reached out and touched a firefly. The firefly stayed in Jinrinyu's palm. Its tail shone with light blue light. After a while, it flew out of her palm again. Soar throughout the house. Jinrinyu raised her lips and smiled slightly. Guangling looked at her from behind. In the dark night, Jinrinyu's side face shone brightly into Guangling's eyes. Guangling stared at her intently, with the corners of his mouth raised unconsciously. He looked up at the ceiling and whispered, "Look up there." Jinrinyu looked up subconsciously and saw a night sky full of stars. Her eyes moved slightly and she opened her lips. She was a little shocked. The night sky in front of her was a visual feast, as vast as under the light of the stars. The flight of fireflies makes this night sky even more special. With a snap of the fingers, pieces of snow fall, intertwined with the light of fireflies. Those lights reflect the snowflakes, making the snowflakes appear light blue. At the same time, in Jinrinyu's focused vision, she seemed to see something on the small snowflakes. She reached out to take the snowflakes, melted them, and what appeared in her palm was a lotus-shaped orb. Jinrinyu was slightly startled, and she subconsciously turned her head to look at Guangling. I saw that the other party was looking at her with a smile on his face. His eyes were like torches. Jinrinyu's eyes moved slightly, and her heart seemed to be hit by something. It was beating harder than before. Baozu, don't convey the meaning too clearly. Could it be his sweetheart? Is she? Xiao Wu, I hope you are happy, Guangling said with a smile under the fluorescent light. His smile appeared softer, as if meeting him for the first time. His youthful appearance was deeply rooted in people's hearts. Jinrinyu looked at him, biting her lower lip with her teeth, and the tip of her nose was a little sore. No one had ever taken her so seriously before. Thank you, Guangling. She stretched out her arms to hug Guangling, and this time, she called him Guangling. Under the glowing night curtain, Guangling's heart also started beating violently, uncontrollably. He was a little dazed, as if he didn't expect Jinrinyu to make such a move. He regained consciousness for a moment, and immediately responded to Jinrinyu's words. Rinyu's hug. He hugged her tightly. You must be happy. No matter what happens, I will be by your side, and I will never leave, forever. End of this chapter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 89. I like you, Guangling. Do you like it? Jinrinyu thought so in her heart. Guangling's words made her stunned. Is she the one in Guangling's heart? Thinking of this, Jin Renai was surprised from the bottom of her heart. She never thought that Guangling would like her. I never thought that I could be liked by him. She always thought that Guangling only saw her as a granddaughter, but looking back at the past, Jin Renai suddenly realized that Guangling was really different from the other grandfathers. Although they also dote on her, buy her favorite things, and accompany her to do the things she likes, but in the depths of her pursuit, it seems that only Guangling does everything from her point of view. She can go so smoothly in Xiandao Imperial Academy, and Jin Ringsu cannot make things difficult for her. All of this is definitely not due to her good luck. Also, the Ice Crystal Phoenix and the Ice Lotus right arm soul bone were all found for her by Guangling. The person who has always been by her side is Guangling, and only Guangling. After putting on that mask, you will be attracted by the destined person, and you will meet your destined person. What the masked boy in Greenwood Township said was still in my ears. After presenting Guangling's mask as a gift, Jin Renai secretly put on her own mask at night. That night, she saw Guangling standing above Guangling Hall. He was dressed in a white robe and a mask, as if he was going to do something. Jin Renai looked at him. Under the moonlight, Guangling's figure could be seen at a glance. Maybe it was attracted because of this. Guangling subconsciously looked towards Jin Renai's room, and Jin Renai hid behind the wall fiercely, a little hasty, a little don't understand why I feel this way. But Guangling actually saw Jin Renai that day. He always knew that she was watching him in the dark, but he knew that this was not the time to break the relationship. When he went to the extreme north alone, he entered a fantasy. In the fantasy, he saw Jin Renai. It was a different era from the present, and there were many strange things in it. He had never seen it, but he was very interested. It's a pity that the illusion passed too quickly. Before he had time to write down those things, he just passed them by, intoxicated by the illusion. Guangling couldn't help herself, until Jin Renai took the dagger he gave her and put it on his neck. He was very sure that's not Jin Renai. Jin Renai would never do such a thing. Never. Guangling wakes up and dispels the illusion, but cannot find the person, beast, who entered the illusion. He frowned, thinking that this was an illusion created by some soul beast. Even though he knew it was just an illusion, Guangling still remembered those things in his heart. He knew that Jin Renai was not Tang Yue. And he also knew that Jin Renai liked him at that time. It wasn't until this moment that he understood what a destined marriage is. It's just that these memories didn't exist in his mind for long. The reason why he heard Jin Renai that day was because of memory disorder. Later, he couldn't remember those things anymore, but in his heart, he had a deeper understanding of Jin Renai's feelings until Jin Renai killed the Nether Flower Emperor. The light spots scattered by the Nether Flower Emperor seemed to stimulate his memory, reminding him of what happened in the illusion at that time. There was not enough time, so Guangling didn't remember it right away. It was not until he brought Jin Renai back to the Wuhan Hall, and he stayed by Jin Renai's side for 7 days, that the lost memory came back to his mind. Zin explained that he also knew that Jin Renai was far older than 10 years old originally. He still had a burden in his heart, but with Liu Yaxin's assistance, he was relieved when she took off the love sickness. Heartbroken red, Guangling knew that she really fell in love with Jin Renai. He has lived for so many years, how could he not know what the loss in Jin Renai's eyes represents? However, in front of King Lun, he couldn't show too much. Of course, he really thought that passing Jin Renai might be because he couldn't bear to miss Acacia. Broken heart. He planned 2 possibilities, just wanted to make Jin Renai happy. If Jin Renai was unhappy because of the first possibility, then he will tell her that he likes her. If Jin Renai was unhappy because of the second possibility, then he will try his best to make up for her, until she is happy. So far, however, these are things Jin Renai doesn't know. Feeling the violent beating heart of the person in front of him, Jin Renai was also extremely sure at this moment that the reason why Guangling was able to pick off the love sickness heartbroken red was because the person in his heart was her. Light Ling, Jin Renai called softly. Ah, Guangling replied in a deep voice. He was holding Jin Renai, as if he wanted to rub people into his bones. I am here, I have something to tell you, she said. Guangling let go of Jin Renai with some reluctance. Under the fluorescent light, he looked down at the person in front of him. Jin Renai looked up at him. The two looked at each other, and they both saw something in each other's eyes. Slightly mixed emotions, as if they were afraid that the other person would not know their feelings clearly. Their eyes contained countless emotions. Yue. Guangling's thin lips parted slightly. A gentle voice sounded in Jin Renai's ear. He stretched out his hand to lift the broken hair around Jin Renai's ear, and stroke Jin Renai's cheek with his fingertips. Jin Renai enjoyed his tender touch very much. She leaned forward. Guangling's palm felt icy cold on her cheeks. Her right eye emitted red breath. Guangling's left eye opened. 2 silk threads, one blue and one red, surrounded the two of them. Jinru opened her lips slightly, call softly, Guangling. The ambiguous atmosphere reached its climax. Jinru stood on tiptoe. Put her hands on Guangling's chest, her body stuck to his clothes, her pink lips were directly on Guangling's lips, his lips were slightly fluttering, and Guangling was startled. He looked at Jinru in disbelief. The warmth on his lips was quickly dissipated by the coldness. Jinru hugged his waist and put her entire body weight on her front. She leaned against Guangling's body and rested her chin on his chest. With her eyes wide open, she looked at the surprised face of the person in front of her. I like you, Guangling. Before recovering from Jinru's actions just now, the sentence I like you hit Guangling's heart again. His heart beat more and more violently, and his chest suddenly panicked. Looking at Jinru, he blinked his eyes quickly, and his tone of voice was trembling. You, what did you say? I said, I like you, I like you. Jinru repeated her words in a gentle voice. She showed a smile. Their bodies were close to each other, and they could clearly feel each other's heart beating. Guangling's eyes moved slightly. He, who was always cautious, seemed even more cautious at this moment. He swallowed, his Adam's apple rolled up and down. He never thought that Jinru would say this sentence before him. He was right, really right. Guangling's eyes were moistened slightly, and she smiled suddenly. Yuer. The two sounds of Yuer seemed to be full of many emotions. He gently held up the face of the person in front of him, his eyes moved, and fireflies danced slowly. Under the light, the two slowly closed their eyes. After a while, their lips touched. Guangling dragged Jinru's head with one hand, and the other holding her cheek with one hand. The two kissed passionately. Guangling felt the weakness of the person in his arms, and then immediately pulled out the hand on Jinru's cheek and hugged her waist. Jinru's cheeks were rosy, and her body unconsciously collapsed on Guangling. Her whole body was hot, and her small hands unconsciously reached the back of the person in front of her. Her strong figure shocked her body. The next moment, Guangling would hugged her tighter, and after a moment, he reluctantly left Jinru's lips. In a state of confusion, the two of them fell on the bed. Guangling's deep eyes stared at Jinru, not knowing whether he was thinking about it. What? Then, he turned over and pinned the person underneath him. End of this chapter. Chapter 90. The super shy Jinru. You? Guangling looked at the person beneath him and suddenly felt that Jinru's figure seemed to have changed a bit compared to before. He put his hands on her ears, slightly dazed at this time. Jinru's cheeks were flushed. She turned her head a little embarrassed, and did not dare to face Guangling directly. She didn't know where the courage came from just now, but she took the initiative to kiss him first. As an adult, Jinru knows a lot of things, but she has never been in a relationship before, and she has never met a man. In this kind of matter, it is inevitable that she will be a little strange and shy, especially if he was being stared at all the time. It would be even more unbearable. Taking in Jinru's expression, Guangling seemed to have thought of something. He immediately pulled away his hand and stood up, sitting on the edge of the bed. In terms of self-control, Guangling still has some self-control, and he didn't think anything else about Jinru, but felt that Jinru had changed a lot, so he looked at her curiously. Even though he thought so, Guangling still didn't know how to open his mouth to break the embarrassment. He pursed his lips, feeling that it was not good to say anything now, and now that he and Jinru have confirmed their relationship, what should he say to the elder brother? Guangling frowned slightly, also anticipating his own fate. At most, he would just be beaten and scolded. Guangling moved away, and Jinru sat on the bed after lying down for a while. Her long hair fell on her shoulders, a little messy, and for a while, she didn't know what to say at this time. There was a sudden knock on the door. Old Wu, hasn't Yuer come back? Where is she? Have you seen her? The person coming is King Lun. He stood outside the door of Guangling's room, followed by Yulan. Just now he heard that Jinru was back, so he immediately came over to look for someone. Unexpectedly, he only saw a strange woman in Jinru's room. He asked Jiulan. Jiulan hesitated and didn't answer his question directly. For this reason, King Lun couldn't help but feel that she was a bit sneaky, but she was in Jinru's room, so it was impossible that Jinru hadn't brought her back, so King Lun didn't make things difficult for her, but still took her to find Jinru. No, King Lun knew that Guangling was working as a coolie in the Angel Hall. He didn't see Guangling in the yard now. King Lun knew that he must be lazy. Fortunately, these three worshippers were not careless people. He knew knock on the door. Otherwise it would be too embarrassing to just barge in. Jiulin prayed that King Lun would not open the door casually. Of course, she was also praying that the two people inside would know how to lock the door. Otherwise, if she and King Lun saw something they shouldn't see, then Jiulin couldn't imagine the next scene. She pursed her lips nervously, hoping that the two people inside could do something serious. Hearing that there was no answer inside, King Lun knocked on the door again. He frowned slightly, and said, "Old Wu, I know you are here. Is Xiao Wu also inside?" The two people inside looked at each other. King Lun really understood them both. The two of them usually hide together and go out to play. King Lun always turns a blind eye. Can he not understand? "Grandpa King Lun, I'm here." Jinranayu made a sound, and hurriedly straightened her clothes and hair. Guangling sat on the bed, taking it easy. He still had something to ask Jinranayu, so he didn't intend to let her go just like that. "Xiao Yu, big brother has something to do with you. Come out and go to the main hall as soon as possible. Besides, who is this woman in your room?" "Nine Blue." Jinranayu got up. "That's my friend, Grandpa King Lun. Don't hurt her." "Don't worry, I won't." King Lun was silent for a while, and then responded, "Hurry up, don't keep big brother waiting." After leaving these words, King Lun left. Looking at King Lun's leaving back, Jiulin couldn't help but wonder if this person was blind. Could it be that he couldn't tell that the five priests liked their young master? Backroom. Jinranayu had just finished her clothes and was about to go out, when Guangling suddenly reached out and grabbed her wrist, and pulled her back to sit on the bed. "Xiao Yu, I have something to ask you." Guangling took advantage of the situation and hugged Jinranayu. He was a grown man and had nothing to be embarrassed about. What's more, Jinranayu didn't look so shy now. This was the right time to talk. Being hugged by Guangling, Jinranayu was not used to it for a while. Her cheeks were slightly red, and she didn't dare to look at Guangling. "What's the matter?" There was a very refreshing smell on Guangling. Jinranayu liked it very much. She subconsciously approached Guangling. Guangling hugged her tightly, and asked in a low voice, "Lvxn told me that you are in the bud. You have been warmed up for many years, so you are about the same age as the old man now, right?" "Yes," Jinranayu replied, but she didn't expect Lu Yaxin to speak so quickly. "But your body doesn't look like a 90-year-old body," Guangling asked. "Xiao Yu, are you hiding something from me?" In the fantasy world, Guangling had seen Jinranayu come into contact with some strange things. He always felt that he had not been tricked by Jinranayu before. This girl was afraid that she was telling the truth when she said she liked him. Thinking about it, Guangling was still happy. After all, he only wanted her words to be the truth, and that was enough. Listening to what Guangling said, Jinranayu pursed her lips slightly. Now the relationship between her and Guangling is different from before. It is not a bad thing to let him know some things, not to mention that he has always accompanied her to unlock her life experience. In this respect, no one is more qualified than him to know these things. But, specifically, I don't know too much. Jinranayu spoke the truth. She lowered her eyes slightly and said, "I lost part of my memory. Even if I asked Little Phoenix to investigate, I couldn't find out what happened, so I don't know about these things." Guangling put his chin on Jinranayu's shoulder. He tilted his head slightly, but still focused on himself. "I see, Xiao Yu. If you need anything, remember to tell me. I will always accompany you by your side. No matter what you do, I will stand by your side. And this will never change." After saying that, he stretched out his hand to touch Jinranayu's head, and rubbed Jinranayu's neck fondly, which made Jinranayu itch, and pulled back involuntarily. "Guangling," she cooed, turning around quickly. He and Guangling looked at each other face to face. With just one glance, Jinranayu couldn't help turning her head away. She puffed her cheeks. Her little face was pink, like a flower that just bloomed. She looked very cute. Guangling looked at her, and laughed. "Xiao Yu, who can be shy, is so cute." After listening to Jinranayu, she frowned slightly. Why did Guangling's words sound like she was mocking her for being easily shy? Digression. You are all thinking about something messy. Am I the kind of person who is very punished? Don't be too ridiculous. Donate to Yemulian if you don't have eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 91. I think it has something to do with Hao Xianzong. I'll be angry. Jinranayu broke away from Guangling's embrace. She got up, turned her head away, and pouted. "Is it still angry to praise you for being cute?" Guangling raised his eyebrows. His words sounded a bit unpronounceable. Jinranayu ignored him and left the room. Jin Daoliu had something to do with her, and she had to go quickly. Otherwise, if he was discovered, someone would definitely give him a beating. She didn't want to choose one of the two extremes when the time came, which would be difficult. Moreover, Xiandao Royal Academy had already started school at this time, so she couldn't do anything except fishing for 3 days and drying nets for 2 days. In addition, Tang Hao and Tang San's whereabouts are unknown, and they don't know where they died. So many people have been dispatched from the worship hall to find them, so they can't hide Tang Yue, right? On the way to the hall dedicated to the main hall, Jin Renai suddenly remembered that she had not seen the system for a long time. She tried to use her soul power to summon the system, but found that no matter what she did, the system didn't make a sound. Shouldn't you be burping? The corner of Jin Renai's mouth twitched. That's her golden finger. Why don't you give it up? Isn't the system an existence that transcends all things? This will all disappear? Jin Renai was a little confused, but at this moment, the little phoenix in her body spoke. Master, that thing has turned into divine thread. What? Jin Renai was slightly stunned. What kind of divine thread? She asked. Little phoenix explained. That's right. During the period when you were unconscious, Master, I heard a strange voice from Little Phoenix. The voice said that you, Master, had completed the final task for it. You are a gift, and that gift is the strand of divine thread in your body, Master, but this strand of divine thread appeared when the enchantment was formed between you and the little green vine, Master. The risk of dissipating, and then, after the voice disappeared, Shenxi suddenly stabilized, and I guess the little phoenix, this should be the gift, it said, completed the final mission. Jin Renai was silent. This system is really good, just those 2 broken missions can make it directly ascend. After reading novels for so many years, this is the first time Jin Renai has seen such an outrageous setting. But divine thread, is it related to becoming a god? Just as the sun was setting and the orange-red dusk was setting, Jin Renai stopped and subconsciously looked at the sky. For some reason, she always felt that there were still many mysteries in this body that had not been solved. Jiuxiner, is it really just a 19-year-old soul beast? Main hall of worship. Jin Douluo and Golden Crocodile have been waiting inside for a long time. After Jin Renai woke up, the 2 of them originally planned to visit, but as soon as they reached the Angel Hall, they saw Jin Renai flying out. Golden Crocodile originally planned to call Jin Renai to stop, but Jin Douluo beside him stopped him. The 2 of them just watched Jin Renai leave. Jin Crocodile wanted to say something, but after glancing at Jin Douluo's face, he chose to keep his mouth shut. Even though Jin Renai's mother is a soul beast, she is the child of a soul beast and a soul master, but this has nothing to do with her. She can't choose her own birth, just like Jin Ringsu, she can't choose herself of birth. Grandpa Jin. Grandpa Golden Crocodile. Jin Renai entered the main hall and saluted the 2 of them. Jin Crocodile looked at her, while Jin Douluo turned his back to her. Perhaps due to psychological effects, Jin Renai felt that the golden angel statue in front of him looked particularly serious today and sacred. Yue, come here, Jin Crocodile spoke, and Jin Renai walked over obediently. In the entire worship hall, except for Guangling, who was a little shorter, everyone else was over 1.9 meters tall, and now Jin Renai, who is only 1.6 meters tall, could barely reach their shoulders even with high heels. But compared to before, her changes were a bit too obvious. Golden Crocodile looked down at her with a little surprise in his eyes. It seems that what the guy Xiao Wu said was not a lie. What happened? Jin Renai and Jin Crocodile looked at each other, completely unaware that Guangling had sold her more than 10 days ago. It's okay, Golden Crocodile replied with a complicated expression on his face, and immediately he returned to his usual serious expression. Yue, that's it, I need you to answer some questions, which are related to your life experience. Grandpa hopes you don't hide it. Life experience? Jin Renai tilted her head. Did they all notice? Or, did someone sell her? Without thinking too much, Jin Renai nodded, and said in response, well, Grandpa Golden Crocodile, please ask me. Having said this, she had no intention of hiding it from them, not to mention that she could not quickly find out the complete life story of this body by herself. All in all, relying on the enshrinement hall was the best way at the moment. Golden Crocodile nodded, and asked, Yue, what is the relationship between you and Tang Hao, and what is the relationship with Hao Xianzong, the enemy? She asked Tang Hao, which Jin Renai expected. She blinked and explained, Tang Hao stole the token my mother left me, and wanted to starve me to death when I was young. A few days ago, he hurt my heart again in the setting sun forest. No matter what you say, he is my enemy, and he can only be my enemy. When mentioning the petals left by Jiuxiner, Jin Renai couldn't help but clenched her fists. Her eyes exuded a murderous aura. and even Jin Daoliu under the statue of the angel god also sensed this monster's hatred. The golden crocodile looked at Jin Renai, a little astonished. Originally, he was worried that Jin Renai was raised by Tang Hao, and he would feel a little bit unbearable. He never thought that Tang Hao's shameless bastard would want to starve Jin Renai to death since he was a child, and stole her mother's token, which hurt her heart. It's a bit too much to put your face on the grill, right? Do you really not want it at all? Moon? Before the golden crocodile could speak, Jin Daoliu, who had his back turned to Jin Renai, spoke. He turned around and stared at Jin Renai. Jin Renai bowed and said, Grandpa, Xiao Wu has told us about your matter, and the main purpose of calling you here this time is to solve Tang Hao's matter. Jin Daoliu said that he sold Guangling without hesitation. What he is considering now is the most accurate relationship between Jin Renai and Tang Hao. He actually doesn't care too much about Jin Renai's life experience. Trust his intuition, and trust Jin Renai, no matter what her background is, since he recognizes her as his granddaughter, then she is his granddaughter. Jin Renai was silent for a while, and didn't say much about Guangling. She nodded, assuming that Guangling was her substitute, saving her the trouble of explaining to Golden Crocodile and the others. Grandpa, I just heard, Grandpa Kinglun said that the people sent out have not yet found Tang Hao's whereabouts, right? Jin Renai's mouth almost revealed her secret. She quickly changed her words, thinking that it was lucky that Kinglun was not here at this moment, otherwise, the picture was so beautiful that Jin Renai couldn't imagine it. Based on her understanding of Jin Daoliu and Jin Crocodile, these two men should be preoccupied with Tang Hao's affairs right now, and there is a high probability that they would not catch her for this, and the fact is, yes, Jin Daoliu replied, frowning slightly. Tang Hao seemed to have evaporated from the world. He was injured so badly. It is logically impossible to escape too far, but the people sent out have turned the entire Sunset Forest around 100 miles away. I searched all over, but I didn't find his whereabouts, which I also feel very strange. They were sent out to offer offerings to find them. Golden Crocodile listened and didn't say anything. He always felt that there was an inner ghost in the Wuhan Hall. Of course, this inner ghost couldn't have come out of their worship hall. What he suspected was the Pope's Hall. After all, they released the power of the Pope's Hall. As for Bibi Dong, who knows if there is a mole under Bibi Dong? This is impossible to detect. Grandpa, I think this matter must have something to do with Hao Xianzong. Digression, Jin Renai, I think Bibi Dong is the biggest insider. It's gone today. See you tomorrow. Kixi Fenway is in the group, with a little bit of Che, don't you? Because it's also my first time writing. End of this chapter. Chapter 92. Kinglun, I didn't mess with any of you. Inseparable from Hao Xianzong? Jin Daoliu and Jin Crocodile looked at each other, and Jin Crocodile said, You ear, what do you know? Jin Renai pursed her lips and was about to think about how to draw the fire to Haoshan sect when a familiar voice suddenly sounded in the ears of the three of them. Because Tang Hao's bastard's strength has been restored, 80% of the time, he suffered such a serious injury that it was almost incurable and impossible to recover alone. Therefore, I believe that the Haoshan sect is definitely behind to take care of Tang Hao in this matter. Otherwise, how could he dare to do this? Arrogant. The one who spoke was Guangling. He welcomed Guangling into the palace, followed by Qingluan. Jin Crocodile was not surprised when he saw this. Third, fifth, you are here? Qingluan nodded slightly. Without saying anything, he walked into the main hall with Guangling. After the light was not reflected, the three people who were in the hall earlier could clearly see the color on Guangling's face, not to mention the bruised nose and swollen face. There were at least 7 or 8 red marks, as if someone had beaten her. Like Jin Renai was slightly startled. How long had it been since we last saw him and he was already fighting with someone? Old 5, what's wrong with your face? The Golden Crocodile couldn't help asking. He remembered that when he saw Guangling yesterday, Guangling was still a fair and clean man. Why did he die after not seeing him for a day? It's nothing, I just accidentally fell. Guangling turned her head away and quietly fell on Jin Renai. Jin Renai looked at him with doubts in her eyes. Luan glanced at it, and Jin Renai understood, and could only say that being beaten was inevitable. Just now, 5 minutes after Jin Renai left the Angel Palace, Qingluan suddenly rushed into Guangling's room. Looking at Guangling's panicked expression and the decoration in the room, Qingluan probably understood that his guess was not wrong. Although Jin Renai was not his granddaughter, she still called him grandpa. He never thought that Guangling would attack his own baby cabbage. Isn't this a bit too much? Qingluan frowned, and immediately punched Guangling a few times. Guangling was unable to dodge, and the two of them started to grapple together. Without a doubt, perhaps it was because they didn't want to make a big fuss. Both King Lun and him tacitly chose not to use their martial souls. No, in terms of arm strength alone, how could Guangling's small body compare to King Lun's? After the trick, he was beaten by King Lun. It wasn't until King Lun calmed down that Guangling told King Lun about Jin Rinayu's life experience and age. Similarly, there was his sophistry. Oh no, it was an explanation. If after King Lun heard this, he didn't believe it, but the situation is a bit embarrassing now. When he thinks that his colleague is with a little girl called his grandfather, he doesn't feel very good in his heart. No wonder Guangling had such a big reaction when he told him that the boys Yu and Jin Renyu were matched. It turned out to be because he had already put Jin Renyu at ease. King Lun was a little distressed, but didn't know what to say. As for Guangling, he knew that there would be such a day sooner or later, so it was not unusual for him to be beaten, but the relationship between him and Jin Renyu should not be known by other people. Otherwise, if one person was at this time, if you beat him up, he might have to stay in bed for 3 months first, and then be locked up. God knows when it will be released. So adhering to the principle of not leaving Jin Renyu, even if he cheated, King Lun had to promise not to betray him. King Lun, although I really want to sue, but after working with Guangling for so many years, I still have feelings, let alone this matter. I can't just rely on Guangling. He has to find some time to talk to Jin Renyu. Feelings are not wishful thinking. If Jin Renyu also really likes Guangling, so of course he won't stop her. Who told Guangling to take off the love sickness red? Love sickness is enough to prove one person's feelings for another person. King Lun is not a fool. Since the good brother has found the destined person, he is naturally blessed. Of course, this blessing is a bit extreme, but there is no other way. You have to vent your anger, right? After telling Jin Renyu about King Lun beating him with his eyes, Guangling returned to his normal appearance and looked at Jin Crocodile and Jin Douluo. Brother, I have the same idea, Jin Crocodile said to Jin Douluo. From the very beginning, he thought that the Clear Sky School was secretly helping Tang Hao. After all, the current head of the Clear Sky School is Tang Hao's brother, and blood is thicker than water. No matter what Tang Xiao said, it was impossible for him to truly hate Tang Hao. Therefore, Haoshan sect must not let go of the root cause. Jin Douluo frowned and did not speak immediately. He was deep in thought and didn't know what he was thinking at this time. Jin Renyu said, Grandpa, I want to go to Haoshanzong. What? Before Jin Dao could speak, Golden Crocodile and King Lun looked at Jin Renyu first. King Lun said, You hear, the terrain of Haoshan School is steep. With your current strength, there is no way to get in. Jin Renyu glanced at him. Of course I didn't go in by myself. King Lun subconsciously glanced at Guangling, who pouted and turned his head without speaking. Looking at the atmosphere of these three people, Jin Crocodile always felt that something was wrong, but now he couldn't tell what was wrong, so he could only look left, right, and then at Jin Renyu in the middle. Why does he always feel that these three people are hiding something from him and his eldest brother? Before Golden Crocodile could think about it, Jin Douluo said after some contemplation, Let the third and fifth brothers go with you. A simple sentence hit the heart of the two of them. Jin Renyu nodded, and replied with a smile uncontrollably, Well, thank you Grandpa. Regarding this, neither Guangling nor King Lun said a word, but it was obvious that their faces were polarized. However, King Lun was always indifferent, and this didn't make Jin Douluo feel that there was nothing wrong. He dismissed Jin Crocodile and the others and went alone. Jin Renyu was left to say something. At the same time, Jin Renyu and Jin Douluo expressed their position and ideas. Jin Douluo was silent, but in the end he chose to let Jin Renyu do what she wanted. He has hidden a lot of things in his heart, and he has never known how to say it. Whether it is to Jin Renyu or Jin Ringsu, he has unspeakable secrets. He never thought that Jin Renyu would be the one man's daughter. Outside the main hall, Guangling and King Lun had been waiting outside. When Guangling saw Jin Renyu coming out, he immediately stepped forward to greet her. You here, how are you? What did brother tell you? What did he say? Curious baby, Guangling asked online. He tilted his head slightly. His mischievous eyes were full of curiosity. He just looked at Jin Renyu, like a dumb hamster looking at his melon seeds. Seeing such a cute Guangling, Jin Renyu squinted her eyes, and couldn't help but feel playful. She stretched out her hand and pinched Guangling's face, and suddenly said with a pursed mouth, Guangling, Grandpa said that I won't be with you together. Wrong Baba, it looks as if it is real. After hearing this, Guangling was taken aback for a moment, and then he opened his eyes wide. Brother knows, Jin Renai nodded vigorously, with a sad expression on his face. Seeing this, Guangling didn't care about anything else. He immediately hugged her into his arms and softly comforted her. It's okay, Yue, don't worry, my god, I'll take care of the matter. I'll go talk to my brother. Seeing Jin Renai's clumsy acting skills and Guangling's blind appearance, Qinglun's face was darkened. What? Abuse him? Qinglun cursed in his heart and thought about all the happy things in his life, but he still couldn't laugh. 5th, are you done yet? End of this chapter. Chapter 93. Second sister, long time no see. Qinglun's impatient voice rang in Jin Renai's and Guangling's ears. Guangling glanced back and ignored Qinglun. He hugged Jin Renai and said, Big Blue Bird, did you betray me through sound transmission? It looks like a food-protecting repair dog. Qinglun, I didn't mess with any of you. It's hard to talk about Jin Renai, so he chose to talk about Guangling. Who knew that falling in love can not only blind people, but also lower their intelligence? Okay, I'm just kidding. Grandpa didn't let us be together. He stayed with me because he wanted me to go to Xiandao Palace first. Sister Zuir has something to do with me. Sensing Qinglun's resentful gaze, Jin Renai also quickly explained. She laughed, but it seemed that Guangling was a bit silly at this time. Guangling glanced at Jin Renai and then at Qinglun. I didn't offend any of you. Only then did he realize that if Jin Daolian knew about this, he would have been beaten in the main hall by now, instead of standing here hugging Jin Renai. Humph. After thinking about the matter clearly, Guangling became a little angry. He snorted softly and let go of Jin Renai. Yue, this is too much. Just now Guangling thought of N ways to be beaten in his mind. Who knows, it was just a feint, or Jin Renai was teasing him. Too much? The more Guangling thought about it, the angrier she became. He pouted, and the word unhappy was written all over his face. Qinglun, he shook his head and said, Love brain is a must. Okay, Ling Bao, I have to go to the Heaven Dao Palace. Do you want to go with me? Jin Renai said casually. She spread the wings of the ice phoenix, and she was already floating in the air. Of course, Guangling flew to Jin Renai's side without saying a word. He took Jin Renai's hand and said, Yue, what did you call me just now? Ling Bao? Jin Renai replied. She had wanted to say that a long time ago. Just like everyone in front of the screen, a person of such an age was called treasure loudly. No matter how thick-skinned Guangling was, he couldn't stand it. He quickly reached out and covered Jin Renai's mouth, gritted his teeth and whispered, Yue, I want more. Face. The big blue bird is still below. At this time, Qinglun once again had black lines on his face. To be honest, I didn't mess with any of you. Okay, I know. I just yelled casually. Jin Renai broke away from Guangling's palm. She smiled triumphantly in her heart, and couldn't help pinching Guangling's white and tender face. Your skin is fine, Jin Renai said with emotion. Of course, Guangling responded. Just don't get angry. As he said that, he subconsciously glanced at Qinglun, who was still underneath, and saw that Qinglun's face was as dark as a briquette. Guangling also quickly took Jin Renai and flew away. He felt that he had to stay a little longer. After a while, I'm afraid his third brother, Big Blue Bird, will have to beat him up again. Under Guangling's extremely fast flight, he and Jin Renai reached the Heaven Dao Empire in just one day. Heaven Dao Empire has people sent by Zhu King to help them. They were all born in the Spirit Hall, so they are naturally familiar with the Elder Order of the Spirit Hall. After Jin Renai showed the Elder Order, they led the two of them to Heaven Dao Palace. Since Guangling was a bit too ostentatious, Jin Renai asked him to put on a robe, making him look like a silly roe deer. Making Guangling complain all the way. Heaven Dao Palace Prince's bedroom in the magnificent hall. Zhu King sat on the front seat in formal attire. He closed his eyes and held his forehead, and tapped the armrest of the seat with his fingers. He didn't know what he was thinking. Shilong and Porcupine stood at the bottom without saying a word. These days, Shilong and Zhu King went to work, and Porcupine stayed at home alone, which can be described as extremely boring. My good brother came back, and before he had time to gossip, he was called here and punished to stand. Although this punishment is not the first time, but the porpoise is still curious about what Shilong and the young master saw, and it was this expression when they came back. It really easily aroused his curiosity. Pussy, the porpoise winked at Shilong, and couldn't help but touch Shilong with her finger. Shilong turned to look at him, frowning slightly. What are you doing? He voiced. What did you and the young master see? Why didn't the young master speak when he came back? It's been several days, the thorn dolphin said anxiously. Shilong was silent. What did you see? That's not even the person in the painting. I don't know if I don't look at it. I was shocked when I saw it. The person in the painting looks a bit too similar to Jinryu. If it wasn't because the current Jinryu has not grown, he must have thought that the person in the painting was the second lady. The same strange eyes, the same martial soul, and very similar facial features. No matter how you look at it, they are definitely related. It's just that what this relationship is, Xilong is not sure after all. The people in the painting are from the Heaven Dao imperial family. He set out to investigate Jinryu's life experience, so he naturally knew it very well. So, in his knowledge, Jinryu could never be that daughter. Otherwise, at this point in time, it would be true at all. Not on Xilong thought so, but Zhu King had the opposite perception. Zhu King is sure that Jinryu must be the daughter. No matter what she has experienced, some things can never be changed. That's why he sent a letter back asking Jinryu to come and see him. He would definitely be able to find that mark on Jinryu. Your Highness, the guests have arrived. After the maid's words fell, Jinryu and Guangling walked into the hall one after another. Xilong and she too turned their heads one after another. Second miss. Before Guangling came in, he hid his aura, and he was wrapped up like a fool. Even if the two knew that he was a strong man, they still couldn't recognize him as the five priests of the Hall of Worship. So, naturally, there was no salute. Sister Zuir, Jinryu bowed and Guangling on the side chose to remain silent. Several people stood on the same parallel line. Zhu King, who was sitting on a high seat, slowly opened his eyes. He stopped what he was doing, ducked, and suddenly he was in front of Jinryu. Second sister, long time no see. He smiled warmly, giving people a kind of warmth that is beyond the world. Jinryu smiled back, and the two looked at each other, as if they could pull out silk. At this time, it must be unstoppable looking at the two of them staring at each other. Both Xilong and the porpoise couldn't help but fell into deep thought. Could it be that their young master likes this second young lady? Looking away, Zhu King lowered his eyes and chuckled. Second sister, I need your help to confirm something. I wonder if you can help me. Yes, Jinryu agreed without saying a word. She tilted her head and looked at Zhu King. She had to say, this skin is also very good. Well, come with me. Zhu King turned around and entered the inner hall. Jinryu followed behind him. Guangling wanted to follow in together. At this moment, Zhu King, who had just entered, suddenly poked his head out. Men are not allowed to enter. This simple and plain sentence made Guangling suddenly realize something. He frowned. Is it less important? End of this chapter. Chapter 94. Inner hall. Zhu King's footsteps stopped in front of the screen. He turned his head to look at Jinryu, smiled gently, and said, since the second sister already knows my identity, I will not say more about some things. This time I call you. I came here mainly to confirm whether you are related to my little sister's aunt. And Jinryu looked at him, frowning slightly. Whose aunt? Zuke. Zhu King replied without saying anything. Zuke? Isn't Zuke the princess of the Xian Dao royal family? Her aunt? Isn't that the younger sister of Emperor Zhu Yi? Princess? How could it be related to her? Jinryu lowered her eyes. A little puzzled. Could it be Jiayu's honor? What are you sure about? Jinryu suddenly raised her head and asked. Her intuition told her that Jinryu must know something. Looking at Jinryu's strange eyes, Zhu King blinked slightly. He pointed to the mural on the wall and said, look at this, you will understand. Jinryu followed his direction and saw a woman whose appearance was 7 or 8% similar to her. Seeing this, Jinryu slightly opened her eyes. At this time, the little phoenix in her body also exclaimed, Master, this person looks like you. Jinryu was slightly surprised. In her vision, the lotus painted on the mural was in the shape of a 9-petal fairy lotus. No matter how blurry it was, she could recognize it at a glance, and the vines wrapped around the woman's hand in the mural, it turned out to be very similar to Lu Yaxin's body. Little green vine, the little phoenix spoke, and it followed Jinryu's eyes and stared at the mural. But it seems different from the little green vine, not her? Jinryu said via sound transmission. Oh, her. Little phoenix responded and expressed his approval. But master, the woman in this painting should be your mother, right? I don't know, I've never seen her before. For some reason, when Jinryu saw that mural, she felt a sore feeling in her heart. Neither she nor the original owner of this body had ever seen the Jiayu's honor they talked about. Even if they knew that Jiayu's honor was her mother, they also knew that Tang Hao had secretly swallowed the things Jiayu's honor left her. To be honest, she didn't feel anything in her heart. But when she saw this mural today, she suddenly felt a little sad. In her mind, she thought about the suffering and injuries she had suffered over the years, as well as the following in the dark night. someone who should not be followed, reaching out to caress the portrait of the woman in the mural. Jinrinyu's eyes trembled slightly, and the eye sockets were a little moist. Owner? The little phoenix could clearly perceive Jinrinyu's emotions. It made a low voice, not knowing how to comfort it. This was the first time it noticed that Jinrinyu had such a special feeling. It was the same body as Jinrinyu. What was absorbed was not only the vast soul power in Jinrinyu's body, but also her emotions, perhaps under the influence of Jinrinyu. The current thinking of little phoenix is becoming more and more human-like. Her name is Jiu Ziner. Zhu King walked to Jinrinyu's side and said, but I only saw her once. After killing Zhu King, Jiu Ziner, really her? Little Phoenix said in shock. What do you want to confirm? Jinrinyu asked with sideways eyes from the moment she saw the mural. She confirmed her intuition that the answers to some things needed to be obtained from Jinrixu's mouth. As for Zhu King, he didn't know that Jinrinyu now knew about Jiu Ziner's existence, let alone that Jiu Ziner was a 19-year-old soul beast. During his investigation, Jiu Ziner was only the young emperor of Zhu Yi. The younger sister whom she got to know while working abroad was also the aunt of the original Zhu King and Princess Zhu Ke. Zhu Ke had a very special evaluation of Jiu Ziner. Originally, Zhu King didn't care about it until she met Jinrinyu. The looks of Jinrinyu and Jiu Ziner are very similar, especially when they met this time. Zhu King found that her face and figure had changed to a certain extent, although she didn't know why. But Jinrinyu and Jiu Ziner, the Xian Dao royal family, must be inseparable. This second sister is really the second sister. Take off your clothes. Zhu King Hideo didn't have any other expressions anyway. Both of them are girls, and girls won't be embarrassed to treat each other frankly in front of girls, right? Zhu King thought so, but he seemed to have forgotten one thing. He now appears as a man. Jinrinyu raised her eyes slightly, just looking at Zhu King, although she knew that the current Zhu King was Jinrixu pretending to be. But, after all, it was a man's face, so it would be embarrassing to undress in front of someone who looks like a man but is actually a woman, right? And, why undress? I don't have anything on me. Jinrinyu said she knew what her own body was like. If she wanted to use some birthmark to confirm it, then it was unnecessary after all. On her, there is no. Some things need a little chance to appear. Zhu King said, I found a description about Jiu Ziner in the Forbidden Palace. It should be a diary written by someone. It said that under certain conditions, a large number of spiritual patterns will appear on Jiu Ziner's body. Those spiritual patterns are very special existence, like a seal or a divine seal. In short, this thing will be passed down along with a bloodline. Although I am now very sure that you are her daughter, I want to see what those spiritual patterns are like. What does it look like? So I sent a message back to ask you to come over. Her burning gaze fell on Jinrinyu, who tilted her head slightly, with no expression on her face. Spirit pattern, is it those things on Lu Yaxin's body? She has it too. Jinrinyu pursed her lips and thought for a moment. Yes, but Sister Zuir, can you restore your original appearance to confirm? Oh, only then did Zhu King realize that something was wrong. He nodded, a golden light flashed across his body, and a moment later, a girl wearing a golden palace dress and long golden hair appeared in front of Jinrinyu. The girl looks like she is in her early 20s, with skin as good as snow, a straight nose bridge, slightly slender eyes, and a stunning face with a bit of majesty. Her long skirt is one piece and seems to be woven with gold thread. There are not too many patterns and decorations, the style is simple and elegant. The golden stand-up collar protects her snow-white and slender neck. Her long golden hair is casually draped behind her shoulders, which is in stark contrast to her neat palace attire. And this is the true face of Jinrixu, the young master of the spirit hall. Seeing the real Jinrixu for the first time. Jinrinyu's eyes were straightened. She subconsciously pursed her lips, swallowed saliva, and she didn't know what was going on in her heart. Jinrixu looked at her, and the two looked at each other. Second sister, she called, frowning slightly, not quite understanding why Jinrinyu looked at her a little strangely. Jinrinyu looked away and realized that she had lost her composure. But, who doesn't love a beautiful sister? This is not much more fragrant than men. How to verify? She asked, trying her best to keep a serious look and not peek at Jinrixu's figure. Back, Jinrixu walked towards her and put her hands on her shoulders. Standing behind Jinrinyu, she stretched out her hand to unzip her skirt chain, and then gently took off her shoulder straps, looking at Jinrinyu's back. With a somewhat dull complexion, she couldn't help frowning slightly. Looking further down, Jinrixu found that there was a long scar on Jinrinyu's waist. She stretched out her hand to stroke the scar, and asked involuntarily, "When did this happen?" This, Jinran felt the warm palms on her waist, and her body couldn't help trembling slightly. Then, she turned her head and saw the long mark. "I fell when I was young, and I didn't take it with me. Go for treatment and stay." The tone was calm, but Jinriksu felt a little distressed from the bottom of her heart. This long mark was definitely not formed by falling out, but formed after spreading. It seems that Tang Hao's bastard is a real bastard. Damn it, Sister Zuir, it's a bit cold. It's the end of autumn now, and the prince's bedroom has windows on all sides. Not long after she took off her clothes, Jinriksu's body was covered with goosebumps. Of course, this was not only caused by the cold wind, but mainly because Jinriksu's palms were roaming on her skin. She couldn't bear it, so she casually found an excuse to relieve her embarrassment. Jinriksu glanced at the open window, and then closed it with her soul power. After a while, the temperature in the room gradually rose, and Jinriksu's body relaxed accordingly. Jinriksu said, "I need to take the you have a little blood, bear it," and Jinriksu replied, and in the next second, a cold touch was attached to her arm. Hiss, Jinriksu took a breath. Just now, Jinriksu took out a dagger and cut a small cut on her right arm. The blade of the dagger caught a few drops of blood. Afterwards, Jinriksu took out a gauze wrap after the wound. Blood dripped on the back of Jinriksu's neck. Jinriksu took out the petals from the Forbidden Palace and put them on the blood. Miraculously, the blood merged with the petals. After melting, they entered Jinriksu's skin together. Jinriksu felt the back of her neck become hot. She frowned, and subconsciously wanted to reach out to touch it, but was stopped by Jinriksu. Wait, in Jinriksu's line of sight, the blood and petals that merged into the back of Jinriksu's neck instantly formed a silver pattern, which stretched from the back of her neck to her waist, and soon covered it all over. Jinriksu's entire back. Jinriksu stared blankly at the scene in front of her, opening her lips slightly. Behind Jinriksu is the pattern of a 9-petal fairy lotus. Those covered spirit patterns exude a faint light. They are intertwined and interspersed with each other, just like the description in the diary. It is shocking, however. Jinriksu felt no other discomfort except for a bit of heat. She could feel a different kind of heat on her back and even on her face. However, she couldn't see it now and couldn't do anything about it. Seeing that Jinriksu was holding her hand, she couldn't do anything else. "Sister Zuir, I'm a little hot." End of this chapter. Chapter 95. Yuir, listen to my explanation. Use Wuhan to cool down. Jinriksu guided. Jinriksu's martial soul possesses two attributes of ice and light, and it can't be better to use it to suppress the discomfort caused by the spirit pattern under Jinriksu's guidance. Jinriksu's whole body exuded a coldness. The coldness spread in the air, and soon it reached the three people who were still waiting outside. Shilong and Dolphin are not familiar with this aura. They both looked at each other without saying anything. On the other hand, Guangling, he didn't know what he was thinking under the mask, and rushed into the inner hall with one stride. No, the complexions of Porpoise and Shilong changed, and before they could stop Guangling, the next second, Guangling, there was a screaming female voice and a powerful soul shock from the inner hall, and the glass shattered. The crackling sound fell on the ground, and an ice blue light suddenly appeared. As soon as Guangling stepped into the inner hall, he happened to meet Jinriksu's eyes. There was a look of horror in Jinriksu's eyes. With a loud cry, she immediately covered the nakedness in front of her, and the ice phoenix wings appeared behind her, and Jinriksu was instantly shocked back a few steps. In a moment, those wings surrounded Jinriksu's whole body. At the same time, the glimpse of the ice crystal phoenix also appeared behind Jinriksu. Defense. The internal organs were impacted by the ultimate ice in an instant. His body trembled slightly, even though he also had the attribute of the ultimate ice, but this blow of the little phoenix was offensive, and even if Guangling had a little defensive thought, no, his whole body was thrown out of the inner hall in an instant, and he flew in the air for a long distance before landing safely. After landing, Guangling subconsciously clutched his chest. He frowned slightly, and the mask fell off his face, but he didn't say anything just now. The aura emanating from Jinriksu's body was a little too strong. It didn't look like the soul power fluctuations that a soul sect could emanate. Moreover, he seemed to see the same aura that appeared on her body that appeared on Lu Yaxin's body back then. Those lines are shining with silver light. It looks very special. But Guangling's eyes flickered for a moment, slightly dazed. He just now. Seems like I saw something I shouldn't see. Cough cough. Recalling Jinriksu's exposed skin, Guangling's cheeks turned red suddenly. He coughed twice to ease his embarrassment, and quickly picked up the mask on the ground and put it on again. He walked to his original position and stood like a normal person without making any further moves. Seeing this, Shilong and Porpoise felt a little embarrassed. They turned their eyes away and neither spoke to anyone, just pretending that they had neither seen nor heard anything. Douluo, and just after Guangling was blasted out, Jin Ringsu also showed a surprised expression on her face. Her level is not known to be much higher than Jin Rinayu's, but just now she couldn't resist the sudden burst of soul power in Jin Rinayu's body. Even, she could feel that soul power was stronger than hers. Could it be that this is the function of the spirit pattern? Jin Ringsu was thinking about it in her heart. Suddenly, she seemed to think of something, her eyes paused slightly, and she said to herself, just now, was that Grandpa Guangling? Subconsciously looking at Jin Rinayu, who was still in a state of fright, Jin Ringsu couldn't help feeling that Guangling's actions just now were a little weird. Didn't she say that men are forbidden to enter? Why do you keep rushing in? Moreover, when he usually came, he would say hello in advance. Why today, quietly, he wrapped himself up like a mummy? It's really weird. Jin Ringsu frowned slightly, but without thinking in any other direction, she walked up to Jin Rinayu, put her hand on her back, and softly comforted her. Okay, Ayu, it's okay. With the wings of the ice phoenix retracted, the spirit patterns on Jin Rinayu's body also gradually dissipated. Because of Guangling's intrusion, Jin Ringsu could not continue to observe the lines that appeared on Jin Rinayu's body. She pursed her lips and pulled Jin Rinayu. The skirt chain of the long skirt said, would you like to go to Yuxun to meet Zuke? She knows more about Jiuxuner than me. Jin Rinayu's life experience has been confirmed, so Jin Ringsu didn't plan to let her stay in Xiandao Palace for too long. What is the relationship between Jiu Ziner and Emperor Zuyu? She still doesn't know. To avoid unnecessary troubles for herself, some things, it's better to leave some things to Zuke. And it just so happened that Jin Rinayu suspected that Tang Hao was hiding with Tang Yue, so going to Yuxun at this time was in her favor. With Princess Zuke's warrant, it would be much easier to bring Guangling into Yuxun, and even if there was a firefight, she would not suffer any loss. Okay, Jin Rinayu nodded and said nothing more. Jin Ringsu returned to Zhu King's appearance, and the two of them walked out one after the other. Zhu King's eyes fell on Guangling, and a strange look flashed in his eyes, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Guangling deliberately avoided Zhu King's gaze. His cheeks were a little red under the mask, and the scene he saw just now would always come to mind, even if he was restraining all the time. But now he really has nothing to do. Once you calm down, it's hard not to remember. Guangling felt that she might be a little abnormal, but having said that, the main point is why Jin Rinayu has similar spiritual patterns to Lu Yaxin's body. She is not a soul beast, but only has the blood of a soul beast. How can she not be physically like this? Will there be such a thing? This is not normal. Frowning slightly, Jin Rinayu walked up to him and patted his arm. In a short while, let's go. Guangling looked at her back, but didn't say anything. He nodded, and the two turned and left on the way to Yuxun. Jin Rinayu found it difficult to walk, so Guangling called a luxury carriage, sat in the luxury carriage. Guangling took off the mask and robe, and finally felt a lot more relaxed. Yue, why are you going to Yuxun? Guangling asked at this time. Shouldn't they be going to Heoxianzong? Kinglun is still waiting. Is it really okay to just leave him there? To be honest, Guangling usually wouldn't think so much, but Kinglun has grabbed his little tail now. If he doesn't think more about it, he's afraid that his life will be a little difficult in the future. I suspect Tang Hao is there. Jin Rinayu looked at him, but didn't say much. She pouted. A pink color appeared on her face for no reason. She turned her gaze away, and she didn't know what she was thinking. Guangling looked at her, as if he understood something. He argued, Yue, listen to my explanation. I thought you were there. What do you think is wrong with me? Jin Rinayu interrupted him and said angrily, we have already said that men are not allowed to enter, but you still barged in recklessly. Why? Do you think Sister Zuir will take action against me? After some words, Guangling was speechless. He scratched his face in embarrassment and said, that's not. Then what do you think? Jin Rinayu asked. She wanted to see what Guangling could say. Putting his face in front of Guangling, Jin Rinayu just looked at him like this. Guangling and the person in front of him looked at each other. He swallowed, always felt that he dug a hole for himself to jump. While thinking, the carriage stopped suddenly, and Jin Rinayu's body fell forward uncontrollably. She opened her eyes wide and subconsciously put her hands on Guangling's chest, while Guangling hugged her in response. Jin Rinayu lay on Guangling's body. They felt each other's heartbeat. The ambiguous atmosphere was filled. Guangling lowered her eyes, and couldn't help swallowing the saliva. The warmth of Jinrinyu's palm spread into his skin along with the thin clothes, and the softness of the person in his arms also crazily stimulated his thinking at this moment. His breathing began to become a little rapid. Jinrinyu's heartbeat she also accelerated, her cheeks flushed slightly, and she wanted to get up, but found that she couldn't break free from Guangling's palm. "Guangling, let go of me first, otherwise, I won't be able to get up." The soft voice fell, and Guangling didn't want to let go from the bottom of his heart. He hugged the person in front of him even tighter, let her lean on his chest and said, "No, I hugged after so much effort, so I don't want you to just be like this. Leave." Some childish words sounded in Jinrinyu's ears. Jinrinyu frowned slightly. "Bad guy," she cursed in a low voice. "There is no way. If Guangling doesn't let go of her, she can only lean on him. Otherwise, if she keeps holding on, it will be her who suffers." "I'm the bad guy," Guangling said straightly, without pretending. He lifted Jinrinyu up, and found her a comfortable position to lie on him. "Who told me to like you? I just want to be with you. Stay together." Listening to the heartbeat in Guangling's chest, Jinrinyu's cheeks became more and more red. But she had to admit that she liked this feeling very much, the feeling of being needed, cared for, and liked by others. In her 2 lifetimes, she had never had family affection or love, until the appearance of Jin Douluo in Guangling. She had relatives and loved ones in her eyes. The most beautiful thing in this world is when she likes someone, and that person also happens to like herself. This feeling of running in both directions is really wonderful. Being hugged by Guangling, Jinrinyu unconsciously raised the corners of her mouth, with a happy smile on her face. Her hands subconsciously hugged Guangling's waist. Guangling noticed, looked down at her, and the corners of her mouth also smiling. Sure enough, Yue of his family is honest. This little one is really cute. Just looking at Jinrinyu like this for a long time, Guangling remembered the spirit pattern that was smashed just now. "By the way, Yue, I have something to ask you." "What's the matter?" Jinrinyu raised her head. Just in time to meet Xiao. Guangling's star-like eyes gorgeous. She watched and sighed. Guangling reached out and rubbed her head, and asked, "Just now I saw a spirit pattern similar to Lu Yaxin's body appeared on your body. What's the situation? Why did those things appear suddenly?" "The young master did it to you." "What?" The 3 consecutive questions were all to show that his intrusion just now showed Jinrinyu's body clearly, and Jinrinyu thought of this after listening. She pouted, a little embarrassed, but seeing that Guangling didn't mean to play tricks, she replied seriously, "It's my mother's blood inheritance. Yaxin is a branch of my mother, and the spirit pattern on her body was planted by my mother, which is used to protect her." "Yes, this point, Yaxin mentioned it to me 2 days ago. As for why the spirit pattern suddenly appeared, it was because I have half of human blood, so it would not be directly reflected. According to Sister Zuir, she used a lotus petal blending with my blood leads to those spirit patterns, and those spirit patterns are of great help to my strength." "Guangling, you should feel it too, right?" Shocked out by her and Xia Fenghuang at the same time, she wouldn't believe it if Guangling hadn't been hurt at all. She just said that even if she and Xia Fenghuang work together now, it's impossible to hurt him too deeply, so Jinrinyu didn't care much. In this matter, it is only Guangling who deserves to be beaten. Who let him break in suddenly and startled her? If it was the other 2, she would have the heart to kill. If you don't beat people to death, you have to disable them. In short, it is impossible to die well. "Of course I feel it," Guangling said. "If it weren't for seeing that dead phoenix in your body, I would definitely beat it up." Thinking of the severe pain in his internal organs at that moment, he couldn't help but want to scold Xiao Fenghuang. "It's fine that Yue hurt him, but that phoenix dared to sneak up on him. Did he really think he lost his temper?" "Humph." With a soft snort, Guangling didn't intend to argue with Xia Fenghuang. He was in a good mood now and didn't bother to think about unhappy things. However, little phoenix listened to all Guangling's words, and he didn't care about it, which doesn't mean it didn't care about him. Under Guangling's smile, little phoenix suddenly said, "The conspicuous bag, obviously you did something wrong first. Why do you still blame little phoenix for beating you? You are just looking for a beating. If you dare to peek at my master, a beating will be light." Guangling's smile froze on his face. He pulled a corner of his mouth and gritted his teeth lightly. "Damn phoenix, no one will treat you as dumb if you don't speak." Slightly, "I'm going to say it, and I'll give you a hard time. Dead phoenix, damn conspicuous bag." The 2 had an inexplicable quarrel, and Jinrinyu's ears were very noisy. She was speechless for a while, and endured it for a while, but it didn't make the 2 of them stop. Grinding his teeth, he suddenly pushed Guangling away. "Why are you arguing? Can there be any results?" The irritable voice sounded, Both Xia Fenghuang and Guangling were frightened. They stopped arguing. Guangling's eyes widened. It was the first time he had seen Jin Renai lose his temper like this. "You." He made a sound and stretched out his hand to tug on Jin Renai's skirt. Jin Renai glared at him. And Guangling weakly retracted her hand. "HMPH. Let you bully me," Little Phoenix said proudly. It knew that its owner was facing it. However, before this idea could get warmed up, Jin Renai said something to break up the Little Phoenix's pride. "You still have the nerve to say it." Hearing that Jin Renai's tone was not that good, the Little Phoenix immediately closed his mouth. It covered its mouth with its wings and did not dare to say a word. Just like Guangling just now, no one is better than the other. After Guangling heard this, he suddenly felt a lot more comfortable. He hummed twice, obviously showing off to Little Phoenix that Jin Renai still favored him. Little Phoenix, Mada, the brain of love, can't tell the difference between good words. When Jin Renai was angry, Xiao Fenghuang and Guangling would naturally stop arguing. In the carriage, both of them were silent for a long time, until the carriage suddenly stopped. "Miss, there is a beggar ahead." Digression. See you tomorrow. There are more than 4,000 chapters in today's chapter, 2 in 1, end of this chapter. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 96. Why did Tang Hao abandon you? Beggar. Jin Renai bowed and opened the door of the carriage. "Miss, that's him." The man driving the carriage was Jin Ringsu's confidant. He pointed at the man on the ground whose face was covered with dirt and his body was in tatters. Jin Renai looked at his pointing, and what caught her eyes was a familiar crew cut, especially the blood-colored clothes and trousers. Uzai Gang? Jin Renai tilted her head, squinted her eyes, and jumped out of the carriage with great interest. "Long time no see, master." Hearing this, the beggar on the ground raised his head and met Jin Renai's smiling eyes. Jin Renai, almost exhausted, Uzai Gang gritted his teeth and called out the name of the girl in front of him, perhaps because of the loss of that important part. Uzai Gang's voice is a bit more feminine now. He raised his eyes and glared at Jin Renai fiercely. The bloodshot eyes were enough to prove that he was really having a hard time these days. How about it? Uzai Gang, who had not been beaten, could not pose any threat to Jin Renai, let alone him now. It's just that the current Uzai Gang has a little more disgusting elements in it. Jin Renai looked at him, the disgust in his eyes was too obvious. Uzai Gang was furious, and scolded, You are rebellious. Did I let you speak?" Jin Renai didn't care about his harsh words at all. She went to sit on the carriage board, looked back and smiled, and gave the coachman a look. The coachman understood, and immediately got out of the car and slapped Uzai Gang twice. Pa! Loud slaps sounded, and Uzai Gang, who is already fragile, swelled up immediately after receiving these two slaps. The coachman didn't attack lightly or severely, it just happened to swell his face so that he couldn't babble. Jin Yin Yu. Li Ki Taisen. Jin Ren Yu. You are going too far. Uzai Gang cursed Jin Renai with unclear words, but unfortunately, Jin Renai really couldn't understand these words. Clap clap clap. The girl sitting on the carriage raised her hands and clapped her hands, nodded in satisfaction. "Well done, I'll add chicken legs to you later." Mrs. Overrated. The coachman took out his handkerchief and wiped his hands expressionlessly. To be honest, he also detested Uzai Gang. Jin Renai snickered, and then turned her attention to Uzai Gang. She sighed him up and said, "Master Yu, didn't Tang Hao take you away? Why did he leave you behind? See, if you were like this, you must have suffered a lot of beatings on the road, right?" After saying that, she looked around again, but she didn't see the shadows of Tang Hao and Tang San. Tang San regards Uzai Gang as his father. Even if he dies, it is impossible to abandon Uzai Gang, so it can only be Tang Hao. This guy Tang Hao took people away, but not completely. He was really awesome. Thinking of this, Jin Renai's smile became even wider. She really didn't expect that Uzai Gang would be so unlucky. Seeing him like this, he probably didn't beg all the way to Xiandao City. "You who is outside?" Guangling listened to Jin Renai's laughter outside in the carriage and couldn't help but poked her head out curiously. The moment he saw Uzai Gang, he frowned slightly, and felt that the person in front of him looked a little familiar. "You have I seen him somewhere?" Of course I've seen him." Jin Renai pulled Guangling out and let him sit beside her. He is the castrated Jade Master. Didn't I tell you last time? Bidong's old man, lover, that's him. Oh, Guangling suddenly realized, as soon as Bidong's old lover was mentioned, he remembered who this beggar was. Didn't he be taken away by that bastard Tang Hao? Why did he appear here? Although Guangling was sure that Tang Hao was seriously injured and could not run far, but that was based on the premise that Tang Hao carried two burdens. He did not expect that Tang Hao would give up Yu Xiaogang as a burden. Sending it to the west is really uncomfortable. However, Yu Xiaogang's suffering is Yu Xiaogang's business. If Yu Xiaogang's suffering can make Jin Renai happy, then he will find someone to torture Yu Xiaogang every day until he dies. I don't know. No, I'm asking him, Jin Renai replied, turning the topic to Yu Xiaogang. Guangling looked at Yu Xiaogang. The cold was overwhelming. Yu Xiaogang trembled all over. His face was a little distorted under the pressure of being a titled Douluo, and he no longer had the arrogant attitude towards Jin Renai just now. Miss, this is in Heaven Dao City. The coachman gave a friendly reminder. Xian Dao City Street is not a good place for interrogation. I just slapped Yu Xiaogang twice and thought he had bumped into them. But if it keeps going like this, the people will definitely become suspicious and the matter will get bigger. But it's not good. Don't worry, I have my own measure. Jin Renai patted Guangling's arm. The two looked at each other. Guangling nodded, and walked into the carriage again after releasing Lu Yaxin from the soul guide. Guangling didn't say anything, but just signaled her to go out. Lu Yaxin frowned and pushed open the door of the carriage. Seeing Jin Renai who was looking at her, young master, she called, Yaxin, there is a tough-talking guy there. He may need your help to get him to talk. After the matter is done, remember to catch up with us. Jin Renai glanced at Yu Xiaogang, and smiled for Lu Yaxin, and then she walked into the carriage. Understood, young master, Lu Yaxin replied and jumped off the carriage. Her transformation time can last about an hour, and 1 hour is enough for Yu Xiaogang to speak. Seeing Lu Yaxin approaching him, Yu Xiaogang panicked. He tried to escape from this place, but unfortunately, Lu Yaxin's body was a green vine. No matter how fast he ran, for a moment, he will be quickly pulled back. My young master wants to know why you appear here, Yu Xiaogang. Do you mean to say it, or not to say it? Lu Yaxin whipped Yu Xiaogang's body. Yu Xiaogang wailed endlessly. The flesh and blood he had just nursed was torn apart again. The pain was so painful that he rolled all over the floor. Yaxin, don't beat someone to death, it's no fun after that, and he will have to take his mutilated body to find his old lover afterward. As the carriage passed by slowly, Jin Renai opened the bead curtain, smiled disdainfully, and her eyes fell precisely on Yu Xiaogang, and it just so happened that Yu Xiaogang raised his eyes and exchanged a glance with her. His heart was once again ridiculed by Jin Renai. Yu Xiaogang was in a hurry, but there was nothing he could do. Lu Yaxin turned around and blinked, indicating that she understood in order to prevent passers-by from meddling in their own business. She dragged Yu Xiaogang directly to the alley. Yu Xiaogang struggled crazily and begged for help frantically, but Lu Yaxin said. The servants in the family disobeyed and ran out. It's embarrassing. I've seen you. Simply passed by. From the look of Lu Yaxin's dress, one could tell that she was from a wealthy family, and in Xian Dao City, it was not uncommon for servants to escape, so naturally they would not suspect that there was anything wrong with this. What's more, Yu Xiaogang was it's really hard to sympathize with. It's so dirty. You kill people and punish your heart. The carriage hadn't gone far, and Guangling sitting beside Jin Renai couldn't help sighing. That's not it. Jin Renai shrugged and glanced at Guangling's face. I'm very vicious. Vicious? Guangling frowned, and said with a laugh, it's okay, you no matter how vicious you are, I like you, and I only like you who are vicious. Little Phoenix, no, you are a conspicuous bag. You are really a lover. Who would like you to praise others like this? Digression, extra car stamps for over 1,000 votes are in the group. End of this chapter. Chapter 97. You look like a person. Is this what I meant? Jin Renai twitched the corner of her mouth and gave Guangling a roll of her eyes. Guangling laughed and thought Jin Renai was so cute like this. He hugged Jin Renai and clung to her all the way, just like a child who hadn't grown up. He would kiss her from time to time. Looking at Jin Renai's cuteness, even if Jin Renai was annoyed, she didn't know what to say amidst the fight. The two soon arrived at Yuxun. The carriage stopped in front of Yuxun's gate, and the coachman said, Miss, we're here. Oh, I see, Jin Renai replied, signaling Guangling to put on the mask. Guangling pouted, looking a little displeased. but put the mask on consciously. The two of them stepped out of the carriage together. What appeared in front of Jinrinai was a huge building with a crescent-shaped decoration above the main entrance, surrounded by plant branches for half of the moon pavilion. The color is mainly golden yellow, and there are pavements on the steps of the entrance. There are red-patterned welcome mats, which look particularly elegant. Yuxun is the court etiquette school of the Xiandao Empire. It is a place that specializes in teaching various aristocratic etiquette. The things you can learn here are not less than those you can learn outside, especially when you have a murderous spirit. You need to suppress it for a short time. Yes, it would be perfect to study here, little lord, Lu Yaxin's voice sounded. Jinrinai and Guangling turned their heads and looked at the girl who was walking towards them. It's pretty fast, Yaxin. There was a smile in Jinrinai's eyes, and the time was just right. How about it? Why would he be a beggar on the street? Tang Hao left him on the way, Lu Yaxin replied, expressionless, but he did it voluntarily. He said that Tang Hao was seriously injured and was hunted down by spirit beasts, so there was no way to drag him along. The two companions escaped for their lives, so he asked himself to leave. He said that he originally planned to go back to find his two partners, but because he met Yao Deng on the way, Yao Deng was a vine left by his subordinates. After arriving at him, he was whipped and thrown out of the Sunset Forest. In the end, he really couldn't enter the Sunset Forest, and there were century-old soul beasts staring at him, so he had no choice but to crawl all the way towards the Heavendao Empire. Did he say which direction Tang Hao went? Jinrinai asked. Say it, Lu Yaxin said. Heavendao Empire. Oh, Jinrinai narrowed her eyes slightly and subconsciously raised her eyes to look at Yuxun. Then that guy is most likely in here. Almost, Lu Yaxin guessed. The two of them should have made an appointment to meet outside Yuxun. Uzia Gang really didn't beat him. He finally asked something and fainted, and he couldn't wake up no matter how hard he beat him, and later, I threw him into the garbage truck. At this moment, people should be fighting with rats for food in the garbage dump, huh? Just thinking about that scene, Jinrinai's skin got goosebumps all over her body. She shook her body and gave Lu Yaxin a thumbs up. Yaxin, good job. He should. After saying that, Lu Yaxin returned to Guangling's soul guide. The time she stayed outside was limited. In order not to cause trouble to Jinrinai, Lu Yaxin obediently returned to the soul guide to rest. Having beaten Uzia Gang just now, her soul power had improved a bit. If it weren't for Jinrinai's instructions not to kill him, Lu Yaxin would definitely beat him to death. After all, who doesn't want to improve by soul power? Seeing Lu Yaxin enter the soul tool, Jinrinai also brought Guangling into Yuxun. She had Zukei's princess order in her hand, so the guard at the door did not stop her, but led her away and told her where Princess Zukei was. Jinrinai thanked her softly, and then walked in the direction pointed by the guard. The architectural decoration inside Yuxun is relatively grand. The people inside are neatly dressed and have extraordinary temperament. At a glance, they look much more comfortable than the group of people seen at Xiandao Royal Academy. Before Jinrinai could take a few more glances, a smart and excited female voice sounded in her ears. Thousand Rinai, Zukei shouted loudly from the second floor, waving to the girl in the center of the hall and smiling. As early as half an hour ago, Zukei handed her a letter, so she also specially waited here for Jinrinai to come. No, she saw Jinrinai as soon as she entered the hall. Jinrinai followed the voice and looked towards Zukei's direction. Today's little princess is wearing a palace attire, with short fluttering hair. She looks very cute. Jinrinai smiled at her, and then walked to the second floor. Zukei ran to greet Jinrinai with a smile. The two met at the stairs. Zukei looked at her with endless surprise in her eyes. I finally see you. She stepped forward and grabbed Jinrinai's hand, and the heartfelt smile on her face made people feel warm. Jinrinai was slightly taken aback, but she didn't expect Zukei to be so enthusiastic. She opened her lips in a daze. You come and sit. Zukei smiled and led her to the dining room table. She subconsciously raised her head and glanced at Yan Ling. Sit down too. This was the first time for Guangling that someone was so enthusiastic towards a stranger. He lowered his eyes and looked at Jinrinai. Jinrinai nodded, and he sat down honestly. Jinrinai, can I call you Yu? After everyone sat down, Zook started the topic. She had been looking forward to this day for a long time, and there were some things she must say. Seeing Zukei's expectant eyes, Jinrinai smiled and nodded. Of course, she said. Okay, Yu. Zukei called out with a smile on her face. Ah, Jinrinai responded without saying anything else. This was the first time she and Zukei had met. Zukei's behavior was a bit too enthusiastic, which made her feel a little weird. However, Zukei's eyes seemed to be looking at someone through her, and her enthusiasm seemed not just for her. You look very much like a person, Zukei said, except for these eyes. Jiu Zioner, Jinru asked directly. Now her identity no longer needs to be hidden, not to mention that she herself has no intersection with Zukei, and there is no need to reminisce about the past. When she gets the answer after the straight ball, she has to go to that bastard Tang Hao. It seemed that Jinru would not say this name, and Zukei was slightly surprised at this moment. She seemed to have confirmed what she was thinking, and asked with firm eyes, "You are my aunt's daughter, right?" "Yes," Jinru nodded. "I came here mainly because I want to know about my mother." "Princess Zook, can you tell me everything you know?" Looking at each other with Jinru, Zukei's eyes trembled slightly. A little surprised and a little stunned. Even though she had already guessed or even confirmed it in her heart, when the words came out of Jinru's mouth, I still don't know what to say. Of course. End of this chapter. Chapter 98 about Mother. Zukei said excitedly. Some things are not clear to others, but she is very clear. She had heard the conversation between Jiu Zioner and Emperor Zuyi, and she knew the fact that Jiu Zioner had a daughter better than anyone else in all these years. Emperor Zuyi was also secretly looking for the whereabouts of Jiu Zioner's daughter, but there was no news for 10 years, so naturally he felt a little bit of giving up later if it weren't for meeting Jinru at Xiandao Imperial Academy. Zukei's long-sealed memories would not have been uncovered. As for what made her settle down, probably the mural in the prince's bedroom. Zuking had met Jinru before, and she didn't believe that her elder brother hadn't doubted Jinru's identity. The last time she went to see Zuking, she just wanted to test it out. She didn't expect Zuking's reaction to be so strong. He refused to let her meet Jinru in the palace. From this, she probably also believed that Zuking had evidence to suspect Jinru's life experience. Now that the truth is out, there is no need to guess. "What do you want to know?" Zukei looked at Jinru with very hot eyes. Jinru looked at her, pursed her lips, and said slowly, "I want to know what the relationship is between my mother and the Xiandao royal family." Although she had long expected that Jinru would ask this question, Zukei still hesitated. She was silent for a while, and Guangling looked at her, curious about the answer to this question. If Jiuxiner really has any special relationship with the Xiandao imperial family, then Jinru's identity is not that simple. Princess Xiandao? Guangling guessed, but his eyes still fell on Zukei. He pursed his lips, and subconsciously grabbed the hand of the person beside him. Jinru looked at him with some doubts. Guangling turned her head and squinted her eyes, not knowing what the sound transmission was about. Jinru frowned slightly, and quickly withdrew her hand. Ignoring him, Guangling pouted, a little aggrieved, but fortunately, he was wearing a mask, so no one could see his little expression. Zukei didn't pay attention to their movements. She lowered her eyes, seeming to be thinking about something. Then, after about 3 minutes, she opened her mouth and said, "My aunt is the younger sister whom my father met when he was traveling abroad, about 13 years ago. It was snowing heavily that day, and my aunt was dressed in white, like a fairy who had strayed into the mortal world. I was young at that time, and I only knew that my aunt was beautiful, but I didn't know that my aunt's vitality was dissipating. That day, my father Wang Yingxuan Go seems to be very worried about aunt's state. After that day, father and king planned to canonize aunt as princess, but aunt declined. So, in the entire Heaven Dao Palace, except for us royal family members who know aunt's existence, the rest few people know about it." After hearing this, Jinru lowered her eyes. 13 years ago? Was it the beginning of Jiuxiner's life force dissipating? But since the vitality is dissipating, why not go back to the Sunset Forest, but stay in the Heaven Dao Palace instead? Could it be that her father is someone from the Heaven Dao imperial family? "You are my aunt's only daughter, and my father has been looking for you all these years. Do you want to go back with me to see my father?" Zukei asked tentatively. She looked at Jinru, observing her expression was cautious. "See Emperor Zuyi?" Jinru raised her eyes, but did not speak. Seeing this, Zukei thought that she was too reckless and scared Jinru, so she quickly explained, I know this matter is a bit sudden to you. If you don't want to, it's okay. Wait, when you think about it, it's okay to go again." Guangling looked at Jinru. From Jinru's eyes, he could see her desire to see Emperor Zuyi. Jiu Zioner is her mother, and Emperor Zuyi is Jiu Zioner's brother-in-law. In any case, Jinru definitely wants to see Emperor Zuyi, but there is a conflict of time right now. Delayed to go. Just as Guangling finished her thoughts, Jinru spoke, "Let me think about it. I have more important things to do now." so let's put this matter aside for now. Well, it's okay, Yue, just make your decision. Zuke smiled slightly and didn't say much. She looked at Jinryu and blinked slightly, not knowing what she was thinking in her heart. Jinryu nodded, and shifted her gaze to the lobby on the first floor. It's break time now. The students naturally didn't attend class. The music lingered in Yuxun. It sounded very comfortable. Zuke looked along Jinryu's line of sight. There are quite a lot of people in the lobby on the first floor, and Jinryu's eyes have been scanning the people downstairs, which made Princess Zuke, who has been smart since childhood, couldn't help but notice the clue. Yue, are you looking for someone? She asked. Jinryu withdrew her gaze and looked at Zuke. She thought for a while, maybe Zuke could help her. Yes, what is your name? It's not convenient to say, Jinryu said, but that bastard broke my heart. What? Hurt your heart? Zuke suddenly opened her eyes wide, and immediately stood up and rushed in front of Jinryu. She grabbed Jinryu's shoulder and said anxiously, Yue, where are you hurt? What's the situation? So, are you alright now? Seeing Zuke suddenly rushing toward him, Guangling was startled. He quickly moved his body and distanced himself from Jinryu to prevent himself from seeing something he shouldn't have seen. Jinryu lowered her head subconsciously, and also stretched out her hand to cover Zuke's spring light. Because she and Zuke were very close, the two looked at each other. Jinryu said, don't worry, princess, I am now. Never mind. Jinryu's breathing intertwined with Zuke's. Zuke's cheeks flushed suddenly. She hurriedly withdrew her body, and said, it's just fine. For some reason, her heart beat a little faster just now. Jinryu replied calmly, feeling nothing different. Zuke tried her best to calm down her state of mind. She took a deep breath and exhaled again, and soon, she calmed down her beating heart a little bit. Yue, who is that person? Zuke asked you if he was in Yuxun. She would definitely not let him go easily. Tang Hao, Jinryu said lightly. Tang Hao. Zuke didn't realize it for a while. She carefully recalled the list of students, but she didn't expect that there was a person named Tang Hao, so she asked naively, is it a student? No. Jinryu looked at her, pursed her lips. I think it's better for you not to know. Why? Zuke frowned rarely. Why not let her know? Can she help too? If it can't be solved, she can go directly to her father to complain. Okay, it's a very troublesome and tricky existence. Jinryu turned her head and yawned. She looked in another direction boredly. After observing in Yuxun for so long, neither she nor Guangling had gained anything, so it can't be said that Tang Hao is not here, right? Jinryu pouted and was about to turn her head when she suddenly saw a woman in a palace dress leading a man in a black robe rushing towards the main entrance of Yuxun. End of this chapter. Chapter 99. That's what he owes me. Tang Hao. Jinryu, who had been yawning just now, suddenly became energetic. She stood up and stared in the direction of the man and woman, with a smile on her face. Guangling, we didn't come here in vain. Guangling stood up, followed Jinryu's gaze, released a trace of soul power, and locked onto the man in black robe not far away. It's him, Guangling confirmed. Who? Seeing them standing up one after another, Zuke also stood up. She looked at them and saw a familiar figure. She was slightly surprised and opened her lips and said, Teacher Yuhua, Tang Yue. Tang Hao. Zuke seemed to have thought of something. She said in surprise, it's Xiao Douluo. Smart. Jinryu replied. She and Guangling looked at each other. Considering that there are mostly honorable students here, the two of them didn't intend to directly solve it violently. However, if Tang Yue wanted to protect Tang Hao, Jinryu wouldn't mind dragging her out too. I'll catch him. Guangling volunteered and went downstairs to the door without waiting for Jinryu's reply. Jinryu looked at him, waved and warned, remember not to have any conflicts inside. I know. Long-winded. Guangling waved her hand, signaling Jinryu to rest assured. Seeing this, Jinryu sighed imperceptibly. She leaned on the railing on the second floor and muttered, it's strange that I can rest assured. Then, she turned her attention to Zuke. Princess, can you help me? Of course. Zuke nodded and replied without hesitation. Although she was surprised by the appearance of Xiao Douluo, what's more important now is Jinryu. As long as she doesn't violate the rules, she can do it no matter what. The job is help. Even if she couldn't help, someone could. Seeing that Zuke didn't even hesitate, Jinryu couldn't help raising her eyebrows slightly, and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth, pointing out, I know that Tang Yue is the master of Yuxun, and Yuxun belongs to Xiandao Empire. I will not become an enemy of Xiandao Empire for no reason, but if Tang Yue must protect Tang Hao, I will not let it go so easily. She is helping the evil. I have my own plans. After hearing Jinrinayu's words, Zuke naturally knew what she meant to express. She frowned, but she didn't know what to say. Yuxun is not a place where you can make trouble, and she doesn't suggest that Jinrinayu and the man following her make trouble here. My goal is only Tang Hao, Jinrinayu said. That's what he owes me. As soon as she finished speaking, a red aura suddenly emitted from her right eye. Zuke was stunned and suddenly raised her eyes to look at Jinrinayu. This breath, it had been 10 years since she had sensed the existence of this breath, and Zuke couldn't help being stunned from Jinrinayu's eyes. She could see the former's hatred and disgust towards Tang Hao, but she couldn't help blindly. She must know the deeper reason. Can you tell me why? Zuke frowned and asked. Jinrinayu looked at her, smiled softly, and snorted. Because, 10 years ago, my mother entrusted me to Ayin, and Ayin asked Tang Hao to take me back, but he refused to adopt me. Later, the head of Shenghan village promised to give him a little monthly subsidy, so he reluctantly chose to adopt, but the adoption was an adoption. He didn't like me from the bottom of his heart. Not only did he steal the token left by my mother, he also wanted to take me starved to death. When I was 4 years old, he forcibly drove me out of the house. Without his son, I probably wouldn't be alive now. But there is one thing to say, Tang San was indeed okay with me when he was a child, but later, ever since he met that little rabbit, the relationship between me and him has changed. Half a year ago, we went to hunt soul beasts in the Star Dou Forest. In an accident, he threw me down to save the rabbit, causing me to almost die from the mouth of a 10,000-year-old soul beast. Tang Hao, with his great strength, he bullied me and intended to kill me. If it weren't for the Jiulian sword in my hand, I might have died at that time. Princess, do you think I should let him go? Looking at Zuke's face, Jinrinayu's tone was very flat, as if she was talking about an unimportant matter. After hearing this, Zuke felt very angry, but more importantly, she felt sorry for Jinrinayu. Jinrinayu was supposed to be like her, growing up surrounded by everyone's doting. If Jiuxiner could send people to Xiandao Palace, maybe things would be different. Thinking of this, Zuke pursed her lips, and said with firm eyes, Yu, I understand, you just go ahead and do this. If the king wants to be held accountable, I will explain it clearly to him, but there is one thing, try to don't hurt teacher Yuhua. Tang Hao has nothing to do with the Xiandao royal family. Jinrinayu can fight if he wants, but Tang Yue is not very good at it. However, if she insisted on protecting Tang Hao and was accidentally injured, Zuke felt that it was understandable. At worst, she would just explain a few more words at that time. Well, okay, thanks a lot. Jinrinayu nodded in thanks, then went downstairs and walked towards the gate from another direction. With Zuke's help, it will naturally be much easier to deal with Tang Yue later. Putting on the mask when going downstairs, Jinrinayu didn't delay. At this time Guangling was already waiting outside. Zuke looked at her back and frowned slightly, not knowing what was going on in her heart. At the same time, Tang Hao, who was completely covered by Tang Yue, was walking forward at a fast pace. The two of them chatted together from time to time, but Tang Yue's complexion was a bit unsightly. Jinrinayu looked at them, walking slowly towards the same direction as them. I would have brought Jiu Lan out today, and I don't know what kind of expression Tang Hao will have when he sees her. Just thinking about it made Jinrinayu feel excited. With smiles on their faces, the three met without a doubt. After a few minutes Jinrinayu was wearing a mask, so Tang Yue naturally didn't know who she was, but Tang Hao was different. He was very familiar with Jinrinayu's aura. With just one glance, he recognized the person they met in front of him as Jinrinayu. Tang Hao stopped, his eyes slightly cold. Tang Yue noticed the movement and turned to look at him. Second brother, what's wrong? Seeing Tang Hao staring at the small figure in front of him, Tang Yue also looked at Jinrinayu. Who are you? She asked with a frown. Yuxun has always only admitted children of nobles to study, but she has records and impressions of all the students who come in. Like the one in front of her, Tang Yue is very sure that she is definitely not a student of Yuxun. Jinrinayu gave them a contemptuous look, but had no intention of talking to them. She walked around Tang Yue and Tang Hao and walked out. Tang Hao looked at her back and couldn't help but look around Wang Yuxun. The only one staring at them at this time was the girl on the second floor, Princess Zook. Second brother, Tang Yue called softly, not paying attention to Jinrinayu just now. Tang Hao was silent and didn't find the aura of a strong man here. It seems that girl Jinrinayu came alone. Thinking of this, he did not delay. If Jinrinayu came alone, it happened that if he solved her, he would also be able to get rid of a serious problem in his heart. Before stepping out of Yuxun, Tang Hao couldn't help but exhort, Yuhua, Xiaism will be handed over to you, you must take good care of him. I know. Tang Yue nodded, signaling Tang Hao to rest assured, and the two walked out of Yuxun together. Before Tang Hao could say another word, a coercion suddenly descended from the sky, and Tang Yue's waist was entangled by vines. The next moment, people are pulled in another direction. Second brother, end of this chapter. Chapter 100, One Hand for a Life. Tang Yue called out, but failed to catch Tang Hao. She put her hands in the air, her pupils trembled slightly, and she just watched helplessly as Tang Hao was pushed to his knees by the lowering pressure. No. Second brother, Jin Renai pulled Tang Yue to her side. She tied up Tang Yue and said, since you are the master of Yuxun, I won't do anything to you, but if you insist on seeking death, you will be beaten later. I will not be responsible. You. Who are you? Tang Yue's body was bound tightly by vines, and her body fell forward, as if she wanted to hit Jin Renai. At this time, her face was extremely ugly. As the owner of Yuxun, this was the first time in her life that she was treated like this, especially at the gate of Yuxun. The guards at the door had already been eliminated when Guangling came out. At this moment, the two people were sleeping soundly, but they had no time to save Tang Yue. Tang Yue gritted his teeth and suddenly remembered what Tang Hao said to her. Could it be that this girl is the one who wants to kill Xiaism? Anger welled up in Tang Yue's eyes. She looked at Jin Renai as if she was looking at an enemy. Jin Renai turned her head and frowned slightly. Tisk, what did that bastard Tang Hao say to you? Ah, I made you stare at me with such disregard for your image. Why, isn't Yuxun particular about elegance? Master of Yuxun, look at you, are you still elegant? Jin Renai ruthlessly mocked Tang Yue, which made Tang Yue feel greatly insulted. She bit her lip, still caring about her image. Your Majesty will not let you go, she threatened. After hearing this, Jin Renai sneered, grabbed Tang Yue's face, and said proudly, Tang Hao is a commoner. I didn't do anything in Yuxun, and I didn't do anything to you. Why doesn't your Majesty let me go? You? Tang Yue felt extremely uncomfortable when his face was grabbed and mentioned she was born unable to practice, and her soul power remained at level 9. Jin Renai's actions were undoubtedly torturing her. You had to bump into me yourself. I wasn't the one who made the first move, Jin Renai said with a smile. She looked down at Tang Yue, and when she was about to lose her strength, she was able to shake off the face that disgusted her. I don't care about your brother-sister relationship. I just want to warn you, if you still want to die, I will beat you too. Even if Emperor Zia comes, I will not stop. Clapping her palms, she hung Tang Yue from the tree, and flew to the battle between Guangling and Tang Hao. Guangling pressed Tang Hao hard, but Tang Hao was still injured and was invincible. He fled and retreated, running away like crazy, just wanting to get rid of Guangling, the person who is clinging to him. Guangling has ice wings, and doesn't care about Tang Hao's escape. He kicked Tang Hao 2 or 3 times, and then used the Guangling divine bow to knock him on the face far away. Light Ling, when Jin Renai came, she happened to see Tang Hao being hit in front of her. Her eyes froze, and the Nine-Petal sword came out of her body. When he got behind Tang Hao, he kicked him on the ground and rolled him several times. Yue, it's not good for us to fight here. Drive him out of Xiandao City, and when he's outside the city, I can show my skills. Got it? Yeah, Jin Renai nodded, using soul skills to fuse. Levine, a long soft whip appeared in her hand. Jin Renai waved her soft whip and rushed straight towards Tang Hao. Tang Hao got up and immediately summoned his martial spirit. He held the clear sky hammer, and the murderous intent in his eyes was self-evident. Seeing this, Guangling pulled up Guangling's divine bow. The 5th soul skill is coming without any delay. In the fight with Guangling just now, Tang Hao didn't want to expose himself. When he met Jin Renai, he seemed to care about nothing. He just wanted to beat Jin Renai to death with a hammer. Jin Renai held the green vine in her hand, and behind her was the blade of the Nine-Petal sword. The powerful soul force field emanating from the Nine-Petal sword surrounded her like a protective barrier. Boom! When Tang Hao hammered down, the air vibrated, and the wind whispered in his ears, but it didn't move Jin Renai at all. On the contrary, he himself, in the confrontation with Jiu Lianjian, received a rebound from Jiu Lianjian, and his whole life the students were pushed back for a long distance. Tisk, when Tang Hao landed, he was a little upset. He hadn't seen him for a few days, but he didn't expect that this girl and Jiu Lianjian had a higher degree of compatibility at the same time. Guangling's arrows followed one after another, piercing through the air. Tang Hao frowned, and immediately released his soul power, the seventh soul skill, Haoshan Real Body. The blood-red spirit avatar opened and appeared brightly in the center of Xiandao City. When Tang Yue saw this, she secretly thought that something was wrong. She tried to break free from the vines on her body, but found that the more she struggled, the tighter the vines became. Jinrinai chose a place with few people to hang for her, so that her cry for help was tantamount to screaming in vain. Moreover, Xiandao City is not particularly safe. If some pervert is called, it will be even more difficult. Thinking of this, Tang Yue didn't want to worry about Tang Hao anymore. Now that she couldn't protect herself, why did she care about others? When Haoshan's real body was activated, Tang Hao disintegrated Guangling's fifth soul ability. Jinrinai took the opportunity to throw out the green vine, and the soft whip wrapped around Tang Hao's leg. Tang Hao staggered, and his whole body was crushed by Jinrinai. Yu dragged it up, and violently threw it in the direction outside Xiandao City. With the blessing of the Nine-Petal Sword, Jinrinai's strength is no less than that of a soul sage. Although her own strength is not strong, Tang Hao just mentioned that it is the power exerted by the Nine-Petal Sword, not herself. Seeing this, Guangling also flew in the direction Tang Hao was going. Jinrinai followed closely, and the two of them clasped their palms. The temperature around them plummeted, and there was a hint of coldness in the air. Guangling opened his left eye, and the blue breath of the deep sea floated out of his eyes. Jinrinai's right eye shone red, and two red and blue intersecting lines appeared beside the two of them, and those lines surrounded the two of them. Guangling and Jinrinai looked at each other and nodded. Jinrinai retracted the green vine, summoned the Nine-Petal Sword. The Nine-Petal Sword turned into a red arrow in the air. Guangling spun the lightning divine bow, and her eyes locking on Tang Hao, the two held the bows and arrows at the same time and drew the bows. Soul Power Fusion. Jiu Lian arrows. With an arrow piercing through the air, a red light suddenly appeared, and the arrow of Julian flew towards Tang Hao's direction at an extremely fast speed. The powerful fluctuations of soul power frightened the air. As a titled Douluo, Tang Hao knew where he was going. How powerful is the light arrow that he struck? He frowned, and a purple soul ring appeared in the palm of his hand. Crack! He crushed the soul ring, swung the clear sky hammer, and the blood-colored spirit avatar appeared again. Big Sumeru hammer, boom! The wind suddenly rose, and the sky suddenly became dark. Jinrinai and Guangling both stopped flying. Guangling pulled Jinrinai into his arms and quickly retreated to a safe place. Stop chasing! A huge sound erupted in the air, and the condensed frost and snow were torn apart, forming raindrops, which fell suddenly. Explode the ring! Jinrinai looked at the sky, frowning slightly. The two extremely violent attacks collided, resulting in huge fluctuations in soul power. The Nine-Compassion Sword was separated from the body. Considering Jinrinai's body now, it was not enough to withstand the impact. Therefore, Guangling hugged her and fell down. The two of them didn't see clearly the actual situation of the blow just now. Ran. Guangling stared intently at the top. The Nine-Petal Sword was already flying towards them, and there was no additional soul power breath above the Nine-Petal Sword's aura, which meant that Tang Hao was not up there. He ran away. Guangling frowned slightly. This Tang Hao belongs to the mouse family. How could he run so fast? Call out. The Nine-Petal Sword was taken back by Jinrinai. She held the hilt and shook the sword body. The next moment, something in the sword body suddenly fell out. It's an arm and a soul bone. Seeing this, Guangling was slightly shocked. Have you chopped it off? He looked at Jinrinai and saw Jinrinai chuckle, lowering his eyes and stroking the blade of Julian's sword. A hand for a life. He will not lose. Digression. If you want to draw a lottery, please quickly join the group. The lottery will be drawn at 295,208,551 o'clock tomorrow night. The group number is, end of this chapter. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.